now, and I just asked Dan, hey, you want to go live? And then I'll roll the video open like we did last week. And Dan says, sure. What do you want to talk about? I go, I don't fucking know. How are you, man?
Like I said, I think it's the change of weather, but I kind of feel awful, but hopefully I sound okay. I was happy about the Thomas Jones interview. I thought, to me, the biggest takeaway with you and Greg Gabriel was that I did know, but I didn't know. I don't know if I've forgotten, but that Lovie Smith was the main proponent in getting Cedric Benson. I don't think I knew that.
Yeah, actually, it was something Gabriel talked about on a show months ago, and the guy from what's his name, Eric Lambert from Sports Mockery wrote an article about it. It kind of pissed Greg off, and I was wondering, why are you pissed off? It's pretty much what you said, and it's good advertisement for Gabriel Talks Football. But he was kind of he felt like Eric misinterpreted what he said about that. But yeah, it was Lovey's call. He wanted a power back.
And that's another strike. I like Lovey, you know that, but it's another strike on Lovie Smith when you look in retrospective, like he broke up his team's chemistry there.
Yep.
In a lot of ways.
I mean, that's what I thought when I heard the announcement of the draft. Is that what you thought too?
At the time, I didn't know it was. I just thought maybe Angelo wanted him, and it was kind of forced on Lovey. I didn't know Lovey was the one doing it, and then putting Bob Babich in over, Ron Rivera. I mean, there's a lot of things he did that kind of chipped away at his own success.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. All right, let's roll this video open. I like doing this. It's what's called cold open at the start of the show. It kind of gets me warmed up. There's people walking into the bar room now. We got a special announcement about an event coming up, but let's officially start the show, and then we'll get into it.
Put the children to bed. It's time for Dan and Aldo to bare their souls.
I love the Chicago Bears more than I do masturbating, and that is a lot.
Then, with 3 seconds left, Bob Avellini throws a 30-something yard touchdown pass to Greg Latta, and the Bears win, and I literally shit my pants. I swear to God, I literally did.
Eric Kramer, for me, I love the guy. He's a tragic figure. I mean, he embodies all that is.
If they don't run the ball here, I'm going to vomit. I swear to God.
Look, I don't mean any disrespect. He just didn't play that well. Not for a guy of his caliber.
They won, but I'm going to be miserable all week because they stunk.
I don't really have any recollection of that at all, but I guess perhaps I blacked it all out.
So, Dan, tape is the ultimate tool for scouts and for coaches to evaluate players, to detect plays and so forth. And they spend hours looking at tape, right? Why do they so often get shit wrong?
I love the efficiency of bourbon.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dan and Aldo.
Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to abruptly got the music like that.
Well, so what did you think about Thomas Jones saying that the game was too big for Rex?
Well, clearly, translated, that means Rex choked. No doubt about it.
But he didn't really advocate for Greasy or Orton either.
Right. He was diplomatic about that. He didn't say, I don't know if Greasy would have done a better job. He probably, thought that those guys weren't practicing well and might not have been better. But he clearly said that Rex Grossman choked in the biggest game of his life, the Super Bowl. And if you don't know what we're talking about, you folks out there, you barflies, you beautiful fucking barflies, it was Greg Gabriel interviewed Thomas Jones yesterday, and we used one of Dan's questions. Dan is so polite to submit a question and also give me some talking tips. And basically the question from Dan was, if you think, phrase it the way you did, Dan.
I was saying to him, like, do you think the Bears would have won the Super Bowl had Lovey pulled and I said, look, I like Rex. I'm not trying to get you to badmouth him, but what if Lovey inserted Greasy into the game in the third quarter? Would the Bears have beaten the Colts? Because people forget Rex, we were down 5 points when he threw that pick in the fourth quarter. It was 22-17. The Bears are a touchdown away from winning the Super Bowl. And at that point, you can't worry about anybody's feelings. You're like, dude, we're here to win a championship. And if Rex, loses confidence over this, we'll work that shit out in the camp. So wouldn't you put Greasy in? But he didn't necessarily see it that way. But he did think that Rex, like you said, he didn't say he choked, but he implied.
It was a very strong implication, if you ask me. And you know what? Dan, I watched that game live, and I have not seen it since. How many times have you looked at it?
4 or 5 times.
How can you do that, man? That one is one of the more painful ones. Just fucking.
Oh, it is, but it started out so fabulously with Devin Hester.
Yep.
And then even Rex threw a touchdown to Musa Muhammad, and we were up 14-6.
Mm-hmm.
Things went awry.
One of the things that I was pissed off about was the fact that it was raining, which, first of all, I thought it was going to be an advantage for the Bears, but it proved not to be. But it mired, for lack of a better word of putting it, the video image. I'm big on having good imagery when I watch a game or a movie or whatever. And did it seem to you, since you watched it almost half dozen times now, did it seem to you like things were a little blurry and
yeah, the cameras were, clearly being rained on.
Yeah.
But still, you had a good image of it in the opening kickoff of Devin watching himself on the video board.
That was awesome.
Running it. Yeah, that it's hard to not think at that moment, man, this is our year.
Yeah. Maybe we should watch that game when you're going to be in town, November 4, 5, 6, and leaving on the 7th. Maybe we should watch that game when we're here. You think Ginny would sit through us watching the game?
Let's hope.
Is it Jenny with a G or Jenny with a J?
It's with a G. Her name is Virginia, but nobody calls her that. So it's Jenny off of Virginia.
Ginny. I got to remember that.
As opposed to like Jennifer.
Right. Well, and man, I've seen a couple of pictures of her. She's pretty hot, man. I might have to take her away from you.
she definitely is a good-looking woman.
She is gorgeous.
Question.
So, do you want to? Addressing the barflies here. Do you want to meet Dan and Ginny? Well, you're going to have an opportunity to, because on Saturday, November 5th at 12 p.m. Central at a location near O'Hare Airport. Now, I'll be announcing that location soon. Dan Aguirre.
Is Mike going to be there too?
Mike North has said he will be there.
Oh, man. Like, for real, I'm going to be a little starstruck.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, that's great.
A number of other barroom show hosts will be there. Danny Shimon has given me a yes. Vinny Parisi has given me a yes. Neil Stopchinski has given me a yes. A number of other people are going to be there. I will be producing a commercial with all of that information coming soon, but I want everyone to put on their calendars Saturday, November 5th, 12 o'clock in the O'Hare area. Don't worry, there will be free parking. You can bowl, you can play video games, you can play pool, there'll be drinks, there'll be food. You better bring some money because I'm only paying for the bar.
If he can get Jiggets to show up, that would be...
Oh, can you imagine that? Can you fucking imagine that?
Yeah, I would really be marking out then.
And I'm praying that Johnny Santucci will be there, because that's college football day, so there's going to be a lot of gambling going on. So hopefully the Tooch will be there. I know you don't gamble, but I have to pay for the bill at this establishment.
I can't gamble. I pick the Bears to win every week, so I can't gamble. I'd be bankrupt if I gambled.
I hear you, man. I signed up to DraftKings. I don't know. It was a year ago. My wife thinks it was 2 years ago, but I think it was about a year ago. I put $200 in, and I'm still playing with that $200. I actually got as high as over $1,000, and I went as low as $5. And I started to lay some, bets where you bet the $5 and you win like 30 cents. Started to build my piggy bank back up, because I didn't want to go back to the bank and deposit more money. So I'm up to like $60 after that low point. But man, this gambling stuff, I don't know if it's for me. Tooch is much better at handling that pressure.
Well, that's a Mike North thing too.
Yeah, I mean, and Mike has told me, really, you shouldn't gamble. The fucking pressure. I wake up in the middle of the night, in the fetal position. And Tooch and I have talked about that too. Maybe we'll talk about it when he comes in later. But there's so much pressure when you're telling people, yeah, this is what I like, this is what I don't like, and all of a sudden people think that, okay, well, that's gospel. They don't realize, no, this is just advice. This isn't a sure thing. There's no sure things in betting. It's pressure, bro.
Well, let me advise you too. The other Dan will be in town that weekend as well, so maybe we can bring him there.
Shorty and his beautiful wife. What's the name that he refers to her on the show?
It's Kitty, right?
Kitty, right. I don't know if he wants us to use her real name. But Kitty and Mr. Shorty, I'm hoping will be there. They haven't gotten the official invite yet, but I can't imagine why they wouldn't be there. So that's going to be great, meeting them face to face, and then we'll be seated next to them for the Dolphins game. So that's
and hopefully you'll be seated with me at the Smashing Pumpkins. Can I throw that out there again?
We better talk about that, because it's not looking good. Dan, would you consider selling those 3 tickets?
I want to go.
I know, but would you consider?
I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't. I mean, I really want to be there.
Thought about it, right? You haven't even
thought No. I don't even want to sell your ticket. Like, I want us all to be there.
I know you don't want to.
I have 3 tickets. Like I said, I've already paid for parking.
Mm-hmm. Well, I one of the things that I'd like to do, because that is Saturday. That Saturday we're going to have the event where all the barroom show hosts, not all of them, but many of them will get together. The barflies, hopefully many barflies will be there. So that's going to be outstanding. And so what I'm thinking about after that, do you want to go to a concert, or do you want to come here to the Aldo cave, the Podfather cave, whatever you want, the fuck we want to call it, and do some shows and fuck around and stuff?
I want to do both.
How do you do both? I don't.
Well, the show's not till 6:30. Yeah, Central Time.
Yeah, we can't like do like Star Trek and all of a sudden go like this and go from O'Hare Airport to United Center. But let's talk about it off the air, because I'm sure this is fucking boring. Most people.
No, I'm sorry about that.
No, I'm not. Don't be sorry. I brought it up, but I want to have the absolute best weekend for you and Jenny and everyone else. So the event that we're planning at this place, and I don't want to announce it yet because we haven't signed on the dotted line and stuff, but yet. And we're having a meeting with the event planner at this establishment, but it looks fucking cool to be able to play, bowling and video games and have some drinks and fuck around with each other and meet Mike North and the Tooch and everybody else and Dan Aguirre and stuff. I hope we get a lot of barflies there. It should be a lot of fun. I'll be advertising it on Twitter and stuff. So if we can get 50 or 60 barflies there to have a good time with us, that would be fucking fantastic.
Well, last question, selfish for myself.
Mm-hmm.
How far is that from the United Center, just roughly?
It's actually closer than my house.
I mean, like if I had to take an Uber or something, is that plausible?
Oh yeah. It's, I mean, like I said, it's a closer distance than it is. My house and the United Center are, let's say the place where we're having the event is right smack in the middle. So
Okay.
so it would be cheaper. But I don't want you to take an Uber. If anything, we're going to find somebody to go to the game. Is Mr. Shorty is not going to the concert? Did he tell you that?
Well, he told me that there was a chance he was going to sell his tickets, and then maybe if you didn't go, he would go with my third.
Oh, there you go.
Well, I don't want to hold him to it because it's like he's driving up the day before from Florida. It's such a long drive, but I did pay $550 for these tickets. So
I know.
So I really want to go. I don't want to make anybody mad, And why didn't you stay? Because I want to do shows with you over the weekend and stuff, but I do want to go to that show too. And where it's Billy Corgan's hometown, it feels like it's going to be a great show.
Oh, I totally agree. By the way, John just put up Mrs. Tooch will drive you guys, Dan. So is John actually volunteering his wife to Uber drive you guys?
I mean, I appreciate the offer. I would feel uncomfortable with my buddy's wife, though.
What are you, some kind of a hornball?
No, it would feel. I don't know. It just feels like it would. It would be inappropriate or something. I don't know.
Whoa, Foster Covers. Foster Covers, my good buddy, says he got a DUI at Heavenly Bodies once. Heavenly Bodies is my favorite titty bar in the Chicagoland area. Now, I haven't been in years, but I've frequented that place over 100 times, and I'm not kidding. I am fucking not kidding, because I used to work down the block. So for 15 years I worked down the block. So over those 15 years I made a few trips over to Heavenly Bodies.
You won't know this reference, and I'm not trying to be homophobic, but in the early 1990s the WWF had a tag team called the Heavenly Bodies, and their gimmick was they were kind of like homosexual dancers.
Oh, really? So there was.
So when you said Heavenly Bodies, I thought, what kind of establishment are we talking about here?
This was totally girls, guys. But you know what? I actually went a couple of times with women who got lap dances from other women. And so at the end of the night, I ended up going home by myself. And the women that I went to, I don't know where they went to afterwards, but they didn't go with me anywhere.
And the most erotic story I've ever witnessed at a bar was in 2009 when I was at this girl's birthday party, and another girl came up to her, and I wish I could use this line. This is a quote. She says, "Bitch, I want to eat your pussy." And the girl shrugged her shoulders, and she was 5'10", 5'11", easily, and had on a skirt with no underwear whatsoever. And the other girl just started going down on her.
Wow.
And I watched it, and needless to say, I didn't get anything out of it except I went home and I did masturbate thinking about it moments later, or probably an hour later. But yeah, it was freshly in my head, though.
That's happened to me a lot, where nothing happened, could have happened, but instead I went home and masturbated after. I was in Vegas once, and we went to a strip club. I forgot the name of it. And this woman pulls, she's wearing the school girl plaid mini skirt. She lifts up her skirt and she starts inserting her middle finger into one of her two holes. I don't remember exactly if it was her asshole or her vagina hole. But she's like, yeah, we can go party afterwards. And, I'm like, I don't want to pay for prostitution or anything like that, but can you do that one more time? It's like, oh.
Yeah. Hey, that's a good reference to John Travolta and Marcellus Wallace's wife. And what happened on that fucking date?
Yeah.
He had to jumpstart her heart with adrenaline after a drug overdose. That's all we need is Mrs. Santucci getting the wrong substance, and it would be my fault.
That would be a great story.
Oh, my God.
Well, again, it is going to be on Saturday, November 5th. Barflies, please mark that date on your calendar and spend some time with Dan, Mike North, John Buffone. There's supposed to be a picture of John Buffone at the top above the Saturday. Where did he go? I don't know.
Was just there. I saw it.
Oh, there he is.
Where does Greg live nowadays?
Greg Gabriel is out in Libertyville, which is about, I want to say 15 miles north of me. It's where Great America is. He's got a beautiful fucking home.
Is there any way we can get him at this event?
I'm going to invite him. I got a feeling he will not be able to to go because he's dealing with a special situation and he's asked me not to talk about it publicly.
Oh, I definitely don't want to pry.
Yeah, so he's dealing with a special situation right now, and I don't think that will be cleared up by then. He's still able to do the show, but he's got more added responsibilities around the house. So, but yeah, I would love to get him out there. I mean, geez, it's going to be so much fucking fun. You're going to have guys like Dan, who you can ask questions about Bears history. You're going to have guys like, hopefully the Tooch will be there. You could ask gambling questions. You're going to have one of the greatest broadcasters in sports history, Mike North. You're going to have guys.
I thought you were going to say that about yourself. No, I'm kidding.
No, I'm just going to be there getting drunk. That's all. Hey, where's Aldo? He's over there in the corner throwing up. It's going to be great. I'd love to meet people like Toreen, PJ, Foster, not Don Burr, CJ, so many people, Saint Omni. Come on, get out there, man. So anyways, more details to come on that. I wanted to tease that. But what I want to get to now, because our show tonight at the 9 o'clock hour, that's 9 o'clock Central, so in about 40 minutes, we're going to have a guest from Football Zebras. Ben, and I'm forgetting his last name right now, I don't have it right in front of me, but Ben wrote a book on NFL officiating and rules and so forth. He runs the Football Zebras website. I thought it would be fun for Dan, John, and I to ask him some questions about what's going on with officiating. I mean, we complain so much about these guys. Maybe he can give us a different perspective on things, maybe bring up some plays that we were bothered by. Get the pulse.
I've got three off the top of my head. Three right now.
Tell me one.
The one in Pittsburgh last year when the guy that's not with us anymore did like the karate kick thing.
Yes.
And they called the taunting when he wasn't talking to anybody specifically or pointing or anything.
Yep.
One in Minnesota when Harrison Smith is in Darnell Mooney's face and not making a play for the ball whatsoever. His head's not even turning for the ball, no PI. And the one in Washington last week, I don't know who the defender was, but it was on 3rd and goal at the end of the game in Pettis' face. When Pettis did drop the ball, but nevertheless, he was like bent like a fucking pretzel, and this guy was all over him. At the very least, it's illegal contact.
Yep.
At the very least.
Yep. And I don't know if Ben from footballzebras.com is going to be able to explain those plays, but I'd like to get into a conversation with him. You know, one of the things I was thinking about saying to him is, hey, I want to have a talk with you and hopefully humanize these officials who are so often getting blamed for things on social media and in the media and so forth. And so
we can ask him why all the officials seem to suck up to the Packers.
You should ask that. That should be your first question.
God, man, it's not just me. Other teams feel that way too.
Oh, fucking A. Because there seems to be a proclivity for officials in all sports to side with the superstar. It happened. You know, I mean, how many times have I heard you, Dan Aguirre, complain about the calls Michael Jordan used to get?
Well, the one I always reference is against in 98 with the game-winning shot on Russell. Now, keep in mind, I was going for the Bulls, so it's not like, but still watching it, he pushed off, man. And if that's anybody else, that's an offensive foul.
I don't think you can say for any certainty based on that replay that he pushed them in any significant way.
I thought he threw him on the floor, man, like for real. Like,
well, maybe that was a flop, but I just didn't see that force. What you got to look at is the elbow. Does the elbow straighten up? And he didn't. You know, if anything, he may have gone like that with shoulder. But be that as it may, looking forward to talking with Ben. And I apologize, Ben, I don't have your last name right in front of me.
It's Ben Roethlisberger. No, I'm just kidding.
All right, but for these next 30 minutes or so, Dan, I want to talk about Justin Fields because I'm beginning to get worried. You know, yes, it's early. Yes, there's all this shit. But first of all, I want to say this, Dan. Dan, I'm almost afraid to go on social media and say anything negative about Justin Fields because I would feel like a Republican complaining about Donald Trump and getting MAGA people all up my ass on stuff. You know, I read some of the stuff. Like there was a guy from ESPN Analytics who wrote who posted some stats about how much time the offensive line has actually been doing a fairly decent job, ranked 8th in pass protection and winning in pass blocking reps. And so the fucking vitriol this guy faced.
Well, can I contradict that guy
Please.
with the stats that David Kaplan used the other day?
Okay.
And we all like David Kaplan, right?
Love
Kapman.
him. Love
Been on
him.
the show. It's a segment he did on TV for NBC Sports Chicago. It wasn't his radio show.
All right.
And he was sorting out some statistics, and he was defending Justin Fields.
Mhm.
He said Braxton Jones has given up 20 pressures on the year at left tackle, the second amongst tackles in the NFL. Lucas Patrick's given up 16, second most than any guard in the NFL.
Okay.
And Sam Mustipher had given up more pressures than any other center
Mhm.
in the National Football League. And furthermore, Fields has received pressure on 46% of his dropbacks in the first 6 games, which is the most any quarterback has ever faced since that statistic was created 16 years ago.
Well, I got to tell you, I mean, that's part of the issue. And so today I was looking at some video. You know, there's video of the All 22, and I'm trying to study this stuff. And I'm no fucking, I'm not a Berlissimo or any of these other guys that look at tape. Phil Toshin, Danny Shimon is one of the, in my opinion, one of the best tape evaluators out there. Those 3 guys that I mentioned are above average. I'm not that guy, but what I am seeing on some of this tape is Justin is just not pulling the trigger. So I was prepared to come on here and talk about, you know, him not pulling the trigger, and I decided, you know what? Let me take a look at what Kurt Warner says about Justin Fields.
Means we're going to motion this guy over here. We're going to have 1, 2, 3, and 4. We're going to have 4 guys to the strong side. What we're trying to do is get the defense to push to that side and get a one-on-one to our backside. If we don't get a one-on-one, if they leave somebody else back here, drop a safety down, leave this backer over here, then we're going to read the concept to the front side. Okay, so here you're going to watch the motion. You're going to see the defense pushes over to that hash, and we're going to run a slant right here. Eyes are right there. He sees that guy. He comes to the backside. Throw it. Can't hesitate. Throw it. Got to be out. Okay? Your drop's got to be quicker. You got to stick it. You got to let it go. Let it go. That's the window. Okay? It's a big enough window. We've got to let this ball go. We've got to anticipate, especially because we decided to go to this side. It's going to be really hard to get back to the other side and find something. So once you choose this side, you got to get yourself ready and rip the throw. There's the little window. Anticipate, let it go. Instead, here we go again, right? Hesitate on the throw. Now you got to try to create. Hard to create every time.
Now, that's just one example, but as I looked at, and you really need to take a look at this video that was released by Kurt Warner on his YouTube page, because it really is fascinating. And he doesn't just blame Justin Fields. He blames everybody on the team, coaching staff, players, and Justin Fields. But again, here we get to that the overall theme. You got to fucking pull the trigger. Here's another one.
We've got double slants to this side. Good read. Anytime we get too high or anytime we get one defender inside, we like to go to that side. Okay, we'd like to go to that side. So reading this guy stops his feet. As soon as he stops his feet, let it go. Let it go outside. You know that you got him. Let it go. Pull the trigger. Gotta let it go right here. Gotta throw the football. That's as big a window as you're going to get right there, but you have to see it beforehand. You got to know when it's got to be thrown, and you got to let it go. He's looking over here. He's got that back foot planted. Let the ball go. Hesitates again. Comes a fumble. When he had the option, he's looking right at it, but for some reason, he's hesitating instead of pulling the trigger.
So, again, this is about Justin Fields' inexperience. His level of playing at the pro game is just not giving him the confidence to, as I love the way Kurt Warner says, let it go, pull the trigger, let it go, pull the trigger. Here's another one. And like I said earlier, he's not just blaming Justin Fields. Take a look at this one.
He's had 2 shots where he hasn't pulled the trigger on this big end, okay? You said it. You got to pull the trigger. Got to let it go. Now, here we are in a big 3rd down situation, and Lets it go. Great job. Step in, throw it. Hits the guy in the face mask. Catch it. Got to catch it. Okay? Everybody takes their turn. Got to catch these balls. Good job by Justin Fields. Good anticipation. Good throw. Drops it. Got to make these catches. Okay? Got to make them.
And it's not all bad, Dan.
Comes back on this one. He pulls the trigger. Okay? Seam, what we call a semi. And a semi. Sees corner off. Puts the back foot in the ground. Boom. Ball's out. Love it. Love it. Do it. See it. Know what you want. Pull the trigger. So when he's able to drop back, and it's not really a read for him. In other words, he's saying, is my first guy or my alert open? Yes, I've got off coverage right here. I've got a soft window. I can put my foot in the ground and throw it. This is when he has his most success. When he knows it and he knows where he's seeing and he's not reading or hesitating on anything, back foot in the ground, let it go, nice throw, boom, we're going. We've seen a couple of these in the game. I just want to see it every time.
Dan, these things are correctable. They're correctable. But what worries me is we see a fucking, fourth round draft pick for the Patriots, Benjamin Zappi, come in and throw for 300 yards. He's not reluctant to pull the trigger.
That's coaching too.
It's coaching too. And I was going to lift some more. There was a couple of plays where they would throw one play in particular. They have trips left, 3 wide receivers to the left, and all of them are going over the middle. And it just creates this fucking beehive where there's no way at all Justin Fields could find an open guy. But that wasn't his supposed first read. His first read was David Montgomery coming out of the backfield and then going to the left, and he was going to throw him a soft pass, but the linebacker read the play. So he didn't have a second option, not with that beehive of 3 receivers all going over the middle, and Kurt Warner then blamed the play calling on that one. So he said it's not just Justin Fields. It's also the play calling. It's also the wide receivers dropping passes. And he also detected wide receivers running patterns that probably weren't incorrect. So it's everything right now. And so when Matt Eberflus goes to the media and says, yeah, it's everything, he's right. It's everything. This is Eberflus earlier today.
Yeah, just like we've been saying, and I think he's been improving on it. It's his footwork and the timing, and we think he's doing a good job of that. We did a few different things last time in the last game. I think that helped him, so we're just looking forward to doing some more of that and going through this process.
Did you find a lot in your evaluation of him? Did you find a lot of issues around him in which you guys, either through coaching or personnel, are not helping him enough?
Yeah, I mean, you always got to look at each play, and say, okay, what was that a function of? The execution was good because of this, or the execution broke down because of that. So I think you always have to look at that on all sides of the ball. Are we, do we maximize our guys? Are we putting our guys in position to make plays on both sides of the ball? Are we doing those in special teams? And we're looking at all those things right now.
How do you teach a quarterback to get rid of the ball faster in season when for 6 games they've been used to doing something one way? Is it possible to do that in season?
I think so. Yeah, I think you can make small incremental improvements, as you go. I think it's with anybody. I think you can learn to, read your keys and see, what the coverages are faster. I think you can identify that pre-snap, post-snap a little bit faster, and I think you can do that.
Dan, anything there stick out to you?
No, it's just I just feel, again, I mean, not to ignore Eberflus's press conference. We're so close to being 4-2, and 4-2 and 2-4. It's a huge difference. I mean, for your season, and it just feels like we've had opportunities to win these games, and it's so depressing that we didn't. That's all I keep thinking. Maybe I should be focusing stronger on what Eberflus is saying, but I just keep thinking in my head, like, God, this could be so much better if we didn't have 2 fumbled punt returns and a fumble by a wide receiver. I mean, where would we be? Maybe you could be 5-1.
See, that's the thing, though, is one of the lines in our show opening that I really, really mean when I say the one that I shitted on my pants with the Greg Latta thing. I don't even know if that really happened. But the one that really sticks in my craw is there have been many times that the Chicago Bears have won games and I felt fucking miserable afterwards because I knew that the effort or the talent or the coaching or lots of other factors just wasn't good enough to be an elite football team. You know, like right now, this is one of those seasons where it's fucking parity, mediocrity, whatever you want to fucking call it. There's only 2, 3, 4 really good teams in the NFL. And the Bears are far from that. And that bugs me. I want our team to be the best. I am spoiled by the 1985 season where I fucking knew that we were the best. We had the best defense, maybe of all time. We had 10, maybe 11 players that should have gone to the Pro Bowl. You know, I want that again. I want dominance. I want to be able to stomp on our opponents and make them fucking fear us. That's what I want. And we're so far from that.
I honestly, not to change the subject of the defense being intimidating, I feel like a change has to be made, even if it's changed just to be change's sake. I mean, they can't come out on Monday night next week, 6 days from today, with the same 5 guys at offensive line. I mean, if they do, they're just saying, we don't give a shit. We really don't care this year. We don't care if number 1 gets hurt. We just don't care. I went on a rant about this last week. I mean, there's some guys on the team that this may be their only chance to be professionals. You know, they always say you got 3.5 years, and this might be like someone like Vildor's last chance, as an example. So you're going to look, I don't mean to pick on Vildor, but you can't look in that guy's eyes and say, we're not trying to win. We're not trying to win. And like, if these guys are just fucking up, and they're getting in the Washington game, Fields is picking himself off the turf every fucking play, even from the front, he's doing push-ups to get up.
Yeah,
essentially.
But that may not be the offensive line's fault. You know, it's like Kurt Warner showed in the tape. He is holding on to the ball.
I concur with that. I agree. It's certainly, he's not blameless. But when you've got Sam Mustipher, who's given it the most pressures and by far in the National Football League, man, this has got to be the week Lucas Patrick plays center, and you have somebody else play left guard. You've got to make a change. You got to take our 3rd round pick that keeps fumbling. What the hell, Velus Jones? You can't have him returning punts this week.
Agree.
You got to have Pettis back there.
Agree.
And you may even put the 3rd string running back. It was 31 in the preseason. He's 25 now. What's his name? Help me out. Our 6th round pick.
I'm sorry.
He looked good in the preseason. He's looked really slow right now, but he started the year opening the season returning kickoffs. You might put him back there again. Ebner.
Tristan Ebner, yes.
It's something like you got to just try something. You can't keep doing the same thing. What's that cliche about the definition of insanity? Trying the same thing over and over and hoping for a different outcome.
But and I apologize. I'm sure I've said this before, but I don't know if I've said it on this show or to you. If you're putting guys in who you know are inferior because you tape every practice, and these guys, the Brandon Schofields or whatever the fuck his name is, and Jatari Carter and so forth, they're the scout team. They're going up against the starters. And so if you see them playing shitty, and are you really helping the team? Okay, let's put Carter in there. I know that he's given up 20 sacks at the last practice, but so that's the thing. And that's what, you know, as an aside, that bugs me about what happens in social media. You got to change. You got to make changes. You got to make changes. Sometimes you can't just make changes for the sake of making changes, because what you're doing is making it worse, at least in the determination of the coaches. This is, if you're going to blame anyone on this goes to polls to not at least bringing in some capable people to be the starters. And that's the case right now. Is we you know, Lucas Patrick is not a guard. There's no fucking.
He can't keep playing guard. That's what I'm saying. He can't. He's given up the 2nd most pressures of any guard in the NFL. So you brought him in to be a center. It's time. Make the move. Maybe it's not Alex Leatherwood or Schofield, but you got Riley sitting on the bench too. I'm not saying that, oh, well, Braxton and Jones, your career is over, but if you're giving up 20 pressures in the first 6 games, maybe, just maybe, the veteran can come in and offer some stability. You got to take a look at all options, in my opinion, right now, or you're going to get your guy hurt and significantly hurt. And he's got to be your top, most important, thing you have to focus on. How do we keep him upright? That's got to be on offense the number one fucking thing other than scoring.
My man, Sun Torres, says Jenkins at left tackle, Reef at left guard, Patrick at center, Schofield at right guard, and Borum at right tackle. You're not going to get a lot of people to agree with that lineup. Jenkins at left tackle seems like something that should happen in 2023 after he's had a whole preseason. But to throw him out there now, after you've been playing this fucking game of rotating him at right guard and fucking with his head and leaking to the media that he's, had all these problems, at practice, didn't have a good Wednesday practice and so forth. I think that you'd be just further fucking with him by putting him at left tackle, perhaps maybe not the hardest position to play, but a position where you need outstanding athleticism because you're going up generally against the best pass rushers. Reef at left guard, I think there's a reason why we're not seeing Reef play so far. I think there's 2 reasons. Number 1, he hasn't played well. We saw it in preseason. Number 2 is that he gets paid a hell of a lot of money if he plays in 10% of the snaps, offensive snaps.
Yeah, but paying Riley Reef the $10 million contract from the Chicago Bears would be like us getting paid $2 an hour to work at McDonald's. Considering how much the franchise is worth, $10 million to Riley Reef doesn't mean a fucking thing, though.
That's a good point. I can't argue with that.
I'm just saying he's there. You signed him for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
At the very least, he struggled a little bit in the preseason because he didn't play that much. I'm just saying, but that was 7-8 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
These guys have been struggling for 6 consecutive weeks in the regular season. That's just what I'm upset about. Like I said, to me, Tevin Jenkins has been the best lineman that we've had. Let's put him at right guard and just leave him and see what he does.
Yeah. And Steven says Patrick deserves a shot at center. By the way, Steven, I hope you're well. Miss you. Do it now. And so my contention is, okay, so maybe they're not doing it now. Maybe his thumb is fully healed or healed enough for him to snap the ball. Maybe they're not doing it now because they're just terrified as to who the replacement will be at left guard. And when they look at the tape, they determine, our second best left guard after Cody Whitehair is Lucas Patrick, our second best left guard. And so, it's hard to argue with that. That's got to be their rationale. It's fucked up, man. Chubbs said it best on Twitter today. Chubb says, yeah, it's all fucked up. It really is. It's all fucked up. It's just, this is the price you pay when you're fucking rebuilding and you're fucking, trying to save every nickel you can to have the most cap space for next season. And they're in the process of evaluating players. But the question is this fair to Justin Fields that you have not built a good offensive line to really allow him to play at a high level? You have not gotten the wide receiver group for the Chicago Bears is the lowest paid. They're like $5 million. All the wide receivers on the roster are making about $5 million. Like, what the fuck, man? You couldn't, even bring in a guy like Josh Gordon at this point, who I've always been, I don't know about that guy, supremely talented, but man, how many chances can you give a brother? I'm saying bring that motherfucker in now. He's looking for a job. Bring him in now and say, listen, every time you score a touchdown, I give you a kilo of Coke or whatever your drug preference is.
But in spite of everything we've just said, the $4.4 million for the wide receiver room, the lack of cohesiveness with the offensive line, and certainly they've had their moments run blocking, but certainly not pass blocking. And Fields, obviously, as pointed out by Kurt Warner, isn't someone that's like flawless himself. But if you put all that together, The kid has still made plays. Like against Washington, if it was with his legs, so be it. He did it. It was 1st and goal. We should have scored. You could have beaten the Giants. You could have beaten Minnesota. And arguably, he was in the game in the end zone against Green Bay as well. So for everything that's gone wrong, Justin has still did enough to keep us in the game. So if we could just get him better and get him more protection, maybe we win some of these borderline games.
Dan, I totally agree with you. And on Twitter, I wanted to showcase one of the positives of Justin Fields. And so I put up a graphic and a stat saying that he's on track to get 799 yards rushing this season, which would be more than any NFL quarterback had last season. And I would say 70% of the responses, and there were quite a few responses on that post, were like, yeah, because he can't fucking pass. Oh, yeah, because he's running for his life. Oh, yeah, because this or that. Just negative stuff towards the poor guy. And it's like, wow. Hey, the rushing yards account for a lot. It may not be passing yards, which is what we most want to see of him, but the motherfucker can create offense with his legs, and we should appreciate that. This all goes all the way back to my feelings about one of my favorite quarterbacks in the Bears, and it's Bobby Douglas. And I know when I say that, a lot of people are going to say, yeah, that fucking franchise is fucked up if that's one of all those favorite quarterbacks.
Left-hander, number 10, right?
Yeah, exactly. He looks so cool in the all whites, left-handed quarterback, all whites, the cool number 10, and he's fucking bowling over linebackers to pick up extra yards and stuff. I grew up on that stuff, and I said, yeah, man, I want to be like him. I couldn't be, but I wanted to be like him. So it counts a lot that he is creating offense with his legs, but at the same time, maybe that's hurting him because he's giving up on that second read. It's like Kurt Warner said in one of those videos, he looks at it that first read, and if it's not there, he's putting his head down and he's taking off, and he's not really, making those sight adjustments quickly based on reading what the defenders are doing. So I'm a little bit worried about Justin Fields, particularly when you compare him with some of the other young rookie quarterbacks that come in here. I mean, immediately make a splash. He has not had a 300-yard passing day. He has not had one of those games where that you can say, wow, that was almost flawless. He had a week ago against the Vikings. I thought he had taken a step forward, but against the Commanders, maybe he took a step back.
Yeah, he missed that throw to the tight end. And I know there were some people that were saying, he was running too slowly and his hips were turned the wrong way. All these kind of things that make me want to be like, maybe it's not Fields' fault, but I'm tired of fighting the battle. I mean, most pro quarterbacks, and I'm not saying Justin isn't a pro quarterback because he's the first round pick. Most quarterbacks, even if it's Trubisky or anybody you thought sucked, most people are going to make that throw there.
Yes, exactly.
And most players, even Jonathan Quinn may have made that throw.
Jesus, that's
Mike Glennon may have made that throw. That's what I'm saying. It was so easy.
Just
like Fields can make the incredible play, can make just the incredible throw, but he's got to get better at making the easy throw. Did you hit yourself in the balls?
No, your comments hit me in the balls. Jonathan Quinn could have made that throw. That was a fucking kick to my balls.
Well, I'm just saying Fields can do the hard things. He's got to be able to make that easy throw.
I know. You know what? And you're right. It was Trent Dilfer on a tape that went viral. He was on WSCR. He does a weekly evaluation of Justin Fields, and he was the one that said that Ryan Griffin, the tight end, came off the line of scrimmage, and he immediately put his belt buckle towards the linebackers, as opposed to maintaining his belt buckle towards the end zone and running to the ball. And it's true, but at the same time, he did it for a split second and tried to adjust. Justin Fields still should have fucking hit him.
And Fields said that too.
Yeah, and he's a consummate pro when it comes to shit like that. He's going to take the blame, even when he shouldn't take the blame. And Trent Dilfer said that, but he believes that was more on the tight end than the quarterback. Who are you going to fucking believe on that? Retro says all those balls rings got too tight. You ever wear ball rings on your testicles?
No.
Never, huh?
I have no piercings, no tattoos.
I've worn a rubber thing on my testicles to delay my ejaculation. You've never done that?
No.
I'm surprised.
Oh, never. I've never put anything where it's not supposed to be down there.
What's the freakiest thing you've ever done?
Like on my body, nothing.
Never? You never butt plugged yourself?
No, God, no.
Here comes Ben Astro, the official, listening to this stuff. Wait a minute, what did I book myself into?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I'm worried about Justin. I know, and this started 2 weeks ago because Danny Shimon, who evaluated Justin and says this guy's going to be a great quarterback. We just got to give him time. But he sends me a text before the last game, and he goes, "Holy shit, man! He's not pulling the trigger. He's not pulling the trigger." And now fucking Kurt Warner is saying the same thing. It's like, dude, fucking pull the trigger. See it and rip it, man.
Maybe if Justin could have truth serum, he might say, "You throw the ball to Dante Pettis and see how many catches he's going to make." He's got like 7 drops this year. Like, again, no, like that's why I was so mad about on Thursday, because remember in the preseason, Eberflus was preaching accountability, which like made me intoxicated because that's something Matt Nagy never did, was hold anyone accountable. So I thought, okay, if you got a receiver that just keeps dropping balls, they're going to take him out. There was a guard or a center that gives up, 2 people blow by him every week, the center, and lets 2 people go free, and it's just like, there's no accountability here. I want the coach to say, we gave this kid a chance. Fuck, he's not playing well. And that means you, Dante Pettis.
Yeah.
Even though you're not a rookie. I'm just saying.
So they dropped today. I'm glad I never remembered how to pronounce the name. Marset Smith or Smith Marset.
Yeah.
They dropped him today. And,
he was released?
Yeah, he was released.
Wow, I didn't see that. So obviously that's N'Keal Harry's spot coming up Monday night.
Correct, but they brought up somebody. It wasn't N'Keal Harry. I'm trying to remember who. Help me out, chat room.
Well, he was activated last week. He was just inactive on the roster.
Correct. He's part of the 53. Isaiah Coulter. Yeah. Thank you, Tooch.
Yeah, Coulter's been up a few times.
Yeah, and I thought he had a pretty decent preseason and had a nice connection going on there. I don't know if, to be honest with you, I don't know if the connection was with Fields or the backup quarterbacks. But
do you think this is some child that Ann Coulter had and just doesn't want us to know?
I think that Ann Coulter's had a lot of child. Maybe she's had a number of abortions too, but that's a different.
Well, I don't want to say that, but
I'll say it. So what are your feelings about this upcoming game against the New England Patriots? Because, one of the things that I'm concerned about is you got this veteran head coach versus a Matt Eberflus, a rookie head coach. In fact, this is Eberflus talking about Belichick's strengths.
Well, he's able to do, what he's done over the course of the length of his career. He's take away a guy's strength and make him play left-handed. That's his whole motto of what he's been able to do. And we've seen it, in the Super Bowls and seen him in playoff games do it. And even when he was D coordinator at the Giants, you saw him do it there. So it's been a stellar career, and he's been able to do that over the long haul.
So they're going to take away Darnell Mooney, first and foremost, and David Montgomery and or Justin Herbert. That's what they're going to do. They're going to focus on that, and they're going to try – they're going to say, all right, Equanimeous St. Brown, all right, Dante Pettis, all right, Cole Kmet, beat us. We're fucked.
Well, I don't want to say that they're fucked on that, because far be it for me to defend Cole Kmet, but it's like he'll catch 2 balls in the first quarter and then there are no plays run for him the rest of the fucking game. So I feels like the Bears have no idea how to utilize every player they have, so to speak, to utilize. You know what I mean? Like, it's like they're on the team, they don't know what to do with them. Like, Kmet gets 2 targets, he's out the rest of the game. David Montgomery, like someone said a minute ago, missed the whole third quarter the other day. It's like, oh, well, we've got to play Khalil Herbert some, but Do you have to take out Montgomery the whole third quarter to do so? It's like they don't know what they're doing on play calls or something. But if you want me to be cynical, I mentioned this last night on the Bears Country podcast. The Bears have only beaten the Patriots one time since Super Bowl 20. Think about that. They played in 88. Doug Flutie had his revenge game against us. That's the last regular season start for Jim McMahon. He gets hurt. They don't play again until 1994. And in that game, if the Bears win, they host a playoff game in the playoffs, not to be redundant, and it's at Soldier Field. And if they lose, the Bears have to go on the road. They lost on the lakefront to Drew Bledsoe, who was really good in his second year at that point. And then we went on to beat Minnesota in the wild card game. But okay, 97, Rick Meyer starts up there. What do you think happened? We lost by 205 points. They play again in 2000. That's the time we beat them. I believe it was Shane Matthews, but we beat Drew Bledsoe in Chicago in 2000. And after that, I'll finish up real quick. Urlacher gets juked in 06. Remember that game against Tom Brady?
Oh, my God. Yes.
2010 in Soldier Field, snow everywhere, big game, and we lose by, 36, 38 in Chicago. 2014, we go out there. That's the game that Lamar Houston was bragging about his sack when we were down 51-3 and blew his knee out. 2018, the last time we played him, it came down to a half a yard when Trubisky went deep to Kevin White, and he actually fucking caught it. Oh, he's tackled a half yard from the goal line.
2 yards or a half yard, whatever you want to measure it. It was cool.
Those are all the games since Super Bowl 20. The Bears have won one of them against New England.
Your fucking memories.
We beat New England twice in 85 alone. Beat them in week 2.
And I mean, beat the fuck out of them.
Haven't beaten them but once since.
ESPN's Courtney Cronin, who I am really, really admiring more and more with each press conference. She asks such good questions. She can ask questions about X's and O's and about personalities, and you name it. She's really, really good. She asked this question. Actually, I've got the video of her asking the question. So Jalen Johnson was at the podium.
The other day, Justin post-game was pretty frustrated, and he said he's tired of being told that this team is so close to
100%.
Who's giving you the guys that message, and what is it? Like, what are they telling you? Like, close to being competitive, close to being a playoff team, close to being...
Close to winning. I feel like that just comes from our staff, our coaches. I feel like at the end of the day, too, I wouldn't say that they're lying. I wouldn't say that they're just saying it just to say it. We are doing some things better. But I feel like a lot of that is really overshadowed by the loss. And I feel like for us, we much rather come in here and make corrections and build on wins, not on losses coming in. Because, just as a competitor, you give everything you got and you fall short. Really just for us, we want to make corrections. We want to grow after a win, not necessarily after a loss.
Do you personally feel like you guys are close, or do you personally feel like you have a longer way to go?
Considering how we've been losing these last few weeks, I think we're pretty close. I feel like it's just executing down the stretch. Like any other team, there's some things to improve. But I feel like if we won, I feel like our close games, I feel like the conversations around this team would be totally different. But I feel like we have shot ourselves in the foot these last few games when we have lost at the end of the game.
Dan, Jalen Johnson is on your side.
He's growing up, man. I remember last year the stuff with Nagy, far be it for me to defend Nagy. I was like, man, I don't know if this guy's got it, but his play obviously has continued to get better. And like every time he talks, man, he sounds like, okay, this is a guy that's going to get another contract with us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he's basically preaching what you've been preaching, is that these games are close. This team could be 5-1. And while there's a lot of ugly spots on it, still, it's like they're close to winning games. It's just that they're not. And as Justin Fields said at the press conference at the end of Thursday's game, it has a lot to do with finishing. They had 3 red zone opportunities on Thursday night, and they could not punch it in for a touchdown. That is the most red zone opportunities they've had all season, because they've been averaging about 2 prior to the game. And so they get in there this time they're moving the ball in between the 20s really fucking well, but they just couldn't get these touchdowns, whether it's Ryan Griffin slowing down or Justin Fields missing a wide open Ryan Griffin, or it's poor play calling inside the 5-yard line. Whatever it fucking is, it does feel like it's all correctable, but will it be? That is the big fucking question.
Mike Ditka said before the old man died, the only time he interfered, George Halas, I mean, and of course, George Halas wasn't asking them to get, Jim McMahon the shotgun the way we always do with Justin Fields or Mitchell Trubisky or Andy Dalton or whomever. But Mike Ditka said that they had, 3 or 4 times in a game they didn't score from the goal line, and then Halas came to him and said, "Do you have the quarterback sneak in your playbook? Because if you don't, please put it in there." And Ditka said that from then on out, he had so much respect for Halas and giving him a second opportunity after he mouthed off to him as a young player, that whatever he said was godlike to him. So the next week they go with the shotgun, they score. He's like, the old man knows what he's talking about. So you got a guy like Fields at the 1. If you don't think Khalil Herbert can crash in there, why not put Fields under center and just fucking give him the sneak?
Yep.
I mean, we saw Kirk Cousins do it to us.
That's right.
And by the way, our interview is about to start, right, with the guest?
Ben should be here any minute. He still has.
Can I call a timeout for my appearance, and maybe you run a little wildcat for me to go piss?
Go do it,
All right, I'll be right back.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, Dan Aguirre is now in the urinal. I wish I had my sound effect machine up. This is what I'm going to say about Fields. Actually, let me have Matt Eberflus talk about Fields, because they've just had this mini bye, and part of what they did was they evaluated every player, every position coach met with the players that they coach, and they gave them 3 things you've been doing right or 3 things that you've been doing wrong and so forth. At the beginning of today's press conference, Matt Eberflus spent some time talking about Justin Fields.
Yeah, just like we've been saying, and I think he's been improving on it. It's his footwork and the timing, and we think he's doing a good job of that. We did a few different things last time in the last game. I think that helped him, so we're just looking forward to doing some more of that and going through this process.
Did you find a lot in your evaluation of him? Did you find a lot of issues around him in which you guys, either through coaching or personnel, are not helping him enough?
Yeah, I mean, you always got to look at each play, and say, okay, was that a function of what was that a function of? The execution was good because of this, or the execution broke down because of that. So I think you always have to look at that on all sides of the ball. And are we, do we maximize our guys? Are we putting our guys in position to make plays on both sides of the ball? Are we doing those in special teams? And we're looking at all those things right now.
How do you teach a quarterback to get rid of the ball faster in season when for 6 games they've been used to doing something one way? Is it possible to do that in season?
I think so. Yeah, I think you can make small incremental improvements, as you go. I think it's with anybody. I think you can learn to, read your keys and see, what the coverages are faster. I think you can identify that pre-snap, post-snap a little bit faster, and I think you can do that.
Well, let's hope that he can. It was freaking funny how he answered that question. I think you can, as opposed to a more declarative, oh, well, of course you can. I can only read in between the lines to what these guys are talking about, but sometimes I almost get the feeling that they're a little concerned about Justin Fields too. And maybe it's just natural. Every coach is going to look at his player and say, I don't know if he can do it. I don't know if he can do it. And fucking Justin Fields is not, as we have stated many times, he doesn't have the offensive line that's going to really help him. He doesn't have the wide receivers who are going to really help him. So he's at a disadvantage. But pulling the trigger, as Kurt Warner says, pull the trigger, let it go, let it go, let it go. That's on Justin. That's not on anyone else. Okay, you can come back and say, yeah, but everything around him makes him a little hesitant, the poor pass blocking and so forth. But that's part of being an NFL quarterback. is when the fucking pass blocking is still failing you. You have the guts to stay in the pocket and try to force that ball in there, try to make the read as quickly as possible. And that's not what we're seeing out of our supposed franchise quarterback. I love this kid. I really, really want him to work out, because if he doesn't, then God damn it, we're in for fucking hell. I mean, this rebuild.
I was going to say the word is fucked. The word is fucked.
Hey, can I take a piss now too?
Yeah, sure.
What do you want to do while I'm away? You want to talk to Keith?
I can fantasize.
We all love that.
I can, I can freestyle, whatever.
All right. Well, Tucci's available if you want to.
I will bring on Johnny Santucci then.
Johnny, I hope you're ready. There you go.
Why don't we just hear a Bears state of affairs if we've got a couple minutes?
Oh, you want me to do Bears State of Affairs?
I hear it's going to be a good one this week.
It is going to be fire. I mean, Aldo's going to miss it, but I got to do the drop, man. You missed last week. So did you go back and listen?
You're talking about me?
Yeah.
I heard the end of it.
Man, last week was fire too, though. All right.
Well, I'm here now. I'm here now.
Should I do a little Bears State of Affairs?
I think so.
All right, here we go.
The Bears, so funny.
All right. Bears State of Affairs, Week 5, a tale of two halves. Week 6, breaking all the commandments. Well, Bar Fies, Bears fans were once again denied their victory orgasm for a second straight week. Once again, we were brought to the brink of climax only to be denied. This game was like one of Bears fan Dan's girlfriends giving him head only to quit right before he climaxes. Turn out the swinging light bulb. The 2022 Bears are nothing more than cock teases. I know it seems like more than 5 days ago that the Bears lost their third straight game, this time in front of a raucous home crowd on Thursday Night Football, falling to a bad Washington Commanders team 12-7. It was another game that the Bears should have won, but for a couple of near misses and one costly fumble. If we're being honest, the Commanders didn't win this game. It was the Bears who lost this game. Another sign that this young team does not know how to win yet. Along the way, the Bears broke nearly all of the football god's commandments. Thou shalt not fumble a punt inside your own 10-yard line. Thou shalt not miss wide open receivers in the end zone. Thou shalt not quit on a route. Thou shalt not give up quarterback killing sacks every series. Thou shalt not blow assignments. Thou shalt not miss blocks. Thou shalt not fail to score from the goal line more than once in a game. Thou shalt not allow your franchise quarterback to get his guts stomped out. But it wasn't all bad news, Barflies. From the look of it, David Montgomery's jersey was proofread before the game and edited to have that third O removed. Hey, I'm thinking maybe we should all petition the Bears to get an extra S placed in front of Eberflus's hit system. Yes, it's another loss, and there will be more. But you have to admire Justin Fields. He got the ever-loving crap beat out of him, left it all on the field, and still got the Bears to within mere inches of victory. I mean, the Bears were so close in this one. Closer than our resident Muff Lover's favorite cunt hair. Darnell Mooney was less than an inch away from a game-winning touchdown. Honestly, this was one of the grittiest performances I've ever seen a Bears quarterback give. Justin Fields, the kid is tough with a capital T. You can knock him down, but he's going to get right back just as soon as he's done doing a set of push-ups. He's going to show you that you're not going to beat him without a fight. I love that about him. Justin Fields will give it everything he has, and he will still be the subject of criticism from soft-brained Bears fans everywhere. And don't even get me started on the criticism from the national sports media. But if anyone deserves criticism, it's the Ryans. Bears GM Ryan Poles and former GM Ryan Pace. Pace for all the swings and misses and for leaving the cupboard bare. Poles for the nearly unforgivable sin of putting together a bargain basement roster capable of getting a franchise quarterback injured for life. You want to talk about trying to be the smartest guy in the room while doing the bare minimum in your job duties? That's your current GM, Mr. Trade Back Bargain Shopper. The Bears have 10 days to figure some things out before heading to Foxborough and a date with the surging Patriots and their secret weapon, Bailey Zappi. They best figure out how to keep Justin Fields from getting killed before he can no longer do push-ups. The future depends on it. And that is Bears State of Affairs.
That's why that guy, John Santucci, makes so much money as a handicapper, because he knows his shit. Well done, Tucci.
Here's a quick question. We all thought, well, I think we all thought that Ryan Poles was going to do something with the offensive line because we heard that he was a lineman. He knows what's up. But was he a good lineman? Do we know? Was he just a guy that was like, oh, he tried to get drafted and didn't, and then got cut and never did shit?
I don't think he ever made it out of training camp.
That's what I'm going to say. Maybe that's why the line sucks, because he's like amazed by the talent of Sam Mustipher, because he's so much better than what Ryan Poles used to be. But in reality, Sam Mustipher is not very good, you know?
Not everybody agrees with your take. Mo Bierman says,
Yeah, man. Love him or hate him, the kid takes a pound. He's going to give it all he's got for your team, man. You can't deny that.
That is very.
He'll get up and do some fucking push-ups before he gets back on the field, man. I love that. Come on, you haven't beat him. You haven't beat him yet.
Very, very true. All right, so our guest has arrived. He is backstage. I'm going to bring him in now. His name is Ben. Help me pronounce your last name, please.
Ostro.
Ben is the president, editor, the guru of footballzebras.com. One of my favorite websites. It is the place I go to get all my information about football officials. When I post on Twitter, today's referee is a professor at Georgetown University, it's because I learned it over at Ben's website, footballzebras.com. I highly, highly, highly recommend it to everyone. Ben, thanks for being on the show.
Oh, great. Glad to be here and glad for all that. You forgot I am the Grand Poobah as well. So I get all these titles correct here.
I love it. Grand Poobah. And you are an author. Tell us about the book that you wrote covering NFL rules.
Sure. This came out in 2015. So it's about due for a rewrite. I'm working on it. But basically taking plays from history, going way back to the 1920s, a little bit more of the more modern ones as well, and just kind of dissecting how the rule is applied in a real life situation, and then applying a few what ifs to that, because it's a lot easier instead of saying quarterback A1 drops back to pass. It's a lot easier to say, Jim McMahon, gets back, he gets tackled, and it's this far after he releases the ball, and where do you enforce the late hit when an interception happens? So it's a little more engaging than dealing with letters and numbers, which is what the NFL rule book, and then they have a case book that lays out scenarios quite like this. But it's a lot easier, I think, for the general fan to kind of connect with names and actual things that happen. And I do challenge anybody to go through and, everybody that knows about and that's why we call it So You Think You Know Football. Even the most hardcore, I know every rule fan found something in there that they didn't realize, or some little nuance that was part of the rules that they didn't realize.
It's great stuff, Ben. And by the way, I want to let you know that the way this show works is Dan Aguirre is with us. He's my co-host. He's a part of the witness protection program, so that's why we don't see his face. Those images of him are just placeholders because we really can't divulge his true identity.
Yeah, I'm like Ray Liotta at the end of Goodfellas.
Exactly.
Trying to get good spaghetti, and I can't. No, actually, my girlfriend makes phenomenal spaghetti. Anyway.
Johnny,
question for Ben right off, if you want me to. If I'm stepping on your segue, I apologize, Aldo.
No, I just want to say one last thing. Two things, really. And Johnny Santucci, who you saw when you first joined us, Ben, is going to join us in a little while. He's got a couple of questions for you. But I did want to say one thing as part of the prelude to this interview is that I want, officials in the NFL are human beings, and we sometimes treat them like they're garbage, and we amplify every bad call that they've made, and rarely do we amplify one of their good calls. So what I wanted to ask you is, these motherfuckers, no, go ahead, Dan.
Okay. I like that he mentioned, it seemed to be referencing Jim McMahon and Charles Martin there. So that's a cool reference, but, or not good for the Bears, but at least I like that he likes old football references. So going back to even the 1970s, if we were going to talk about, Atkinson and Dr. Death hitting Lynn Swan, you could basically fucking clothesline wide receivers, but yet still in, say, 1976, face guarding was illegal. Even if I could pick you up and do a WWE move on you, it was still illegal to just throw your hands up in a wide receiver's face, not make a play for the ball 40 plus years ago. And we saw it in the whatever the Metrodome, the new Viking Stadium's called, whatever it's called, 2 weeks ago, when this, I don't know if you saw the play, but the Harrison Smith, the safety, is all in Darnell Mooney's face, fully extended like he's Superman flying with his hands coming out, not looking back, not making a play for the ball, and makes contact. It's just, I see these kind of plays every week. If you saw it, I'd like for you to tell me how I'm wrong that that's not a PI, or at the very least a 5-yard illegal contact. Do you know the play I'm talking about? The first quarter?
I do not, and that's one of the perils of having 10 games on at the same time, and we do get, there was a pass interference. I'm like, yeah, we know, we got a stack of them, and we don't always get to all of them, and particularly in situations like that, it's hard to pick them apart unless there's like something really missing, or on the flip side, if there's something really there that we see. Because it's one shot. I'll have to say, between that and which I'm sure we're going to talk about, roughing the passer, between the two of those, I think those have become the toughest things to call in real time. You got one shot, you look at it, you process it in your brain, you re-rack it in your brain a little bit, and then you make that call right then and there. So you got maybe 2-3 seconds to really put it back together like an accident reconstructionist, and see all of those elements. The contact, was it bang bang? Was there something coming back from the receiver? Because we'll have some hand fighting, and all of those elements. Did the route get cut off? All of these parts that are all moving, and meanwhile, you're trying to haul ass downfield to try and keep up with the receivers as well. So it's one of these situations where you're going to get those missed calls, and yes, those tend to be those deep penalties as well. And I get that. But more often than not, there is some sort of restriction there. And gosh, I hate to bring us back to when we threw that under the replay microscope, but that's really what it was. It was looking at these judgments. And then if we start slowing it down, you start to see more. And so maybe that little push in real time, you didn't really see very much of a restriction. But then when you put it in slow motion, it magnifies what that action is. So it wasn't really fair to put it under replay. And I think it's one of these things that when we get to see it repeatedly, 3-4 angles, and it's all slowed down, if we had all those 3 or 4 angles and had them at real speed, at game speed, I don't think that we'd be able to sort out a lot of them. There are going to be those that do come through, and they're just going to be those really obvious ones. Saints fans remind me about that all the time. But it's one of those things that it's a judgment call in real time. So we try not to dwell too much on the pass interference unless there's just some missing element or a really big play.
All right, I got 2 quick follow-ups. Quickly. You didn't see the Smith play, but if you can trust my conveying of how it played out, if the defender is approaching the wide receiver with his hands out in his face and does not have his head turned back looking at the ball at all, if that's exactly what happened, is that a PI?
Well, face guarding it by itself is not a foul in the NFL. Now, we ran into a situation, and again, Lions fans will remind me of this, when when they made the playoffs and when they exited partially due to the fact that there was a face guarding call that really should not have been called. The official thought that there was contact. The one that didn't see the contact got talked out of the one that thought that he did, and unfortunately it tipped the wrong way for the Lions. But yeah, you can put your hands in the face as long as you don't make any contact. What they do now this season, especially, is they're really cognizant of route cutoffs. You can't just plant yourself in a spot of the field and just wall off the receiver. And it goes both ways. I say receiver, it's either the DB or the receiver. But in this case, you can't just like try and push them out to the outside and not make a play on the ball. If you're near catching the ball, if that's where the ball is going and you're there, you're entitled to maintain that position.
But if Harrison touches the receiver,
off your opponent.
I apologize for stepping on you. I was going to say, if the safety touches the receiver while he's doing that and does not make a play for the ball, nor does not look back at the quarterback, is that in that scenario, then is that at least illegal contact? Because he never even looked back at the quarterback. He made contact and he was looking at the receiver, never made a play for the ball.
Well, it'll be illegal contact if the quarterback has the ball, but if it's in the air, it has got to be a defensive pass interference.
All right.
But then the other part of that defensive pass interference is significant restriction. So that's why we see all this hand fighting going on. That's okay. And that's kind of how they see each other and kind of maintain that distance as they go along. Otherwise, you got two people running and they will crash into each other or tangle feet. So that's a way to kind of keep their distance a little bit. So they've recognized that you're going to have that hand fighting back and forth. But once it starts to tip towards that contact is starting to leverage an advantage or put the other one at a disadvantage, then that's going to raise the antenna of the deep official, and they're going to call that if it's significant.
One more question for you, then I'll let Aldo talk. You referenced New Orleans. I know you meant the NFC Championship game, but as a Bears fan, it makes me think of 2017 when Zach Miller almost lost his leg catching a touchdown in the Superdome. Do you know that play?
I'm trying to.
It was called a touchdown on the field, and then Al Riveron came in and said that it wasn't a touchdown. And then on Tuesday, celebrated on Twitter that he got the call right when like 99% of Americans would have said that Zach Miller caught the ball. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a Bear. And they literally had to take veins from one leg into the other leg to save his leg, to save his life. But he caught the ball. He caught the ball, and then Al Riveron said he didn't, so they overturned it. That one still, if I live to be 80, I'll be thinking Al Riveron needs his ass kicked because of that call.
And that's one of the things that, replay has evolved over the last 10 years. And, they would look at things and say, is it disputable evidence? And eventually they started to look at it, and there's the visual right there. And, what they started to do is say, you can dispute anything. So now it starts to shift from that no disputable evidence to a clear and obvious. I think we're starting to let more of these things stay as they're called on the field. Because the one thing is, you don't want to start re-officiating the play that happened on the field. You really have to go with, this is what was called in real time. Did they get it or did they not get it?
And Zach Miller's was called a touchdown on the field.
Try and find this element. And then that's sort of the involvement over the course of time. And then again, when Al Riveron took over for Dean Blandino, he was part of the replay process to begin with. But, now when he's leading the department, now it's a whole different element. He gets to make the call. It's his interpretation that leads it. And I think there was a lot of bumpiness at the beginning there because that really indisputable evidence standard. So I'm glad that they kind of moved towards clear and obvious. And then you can kind of say, well, it looks like a catch. It's a catch.
Did you see the Miller play that Aldo showed there? Did you get to look at it?
I did see it. Yeah.
He that was called a touchdown on the field too, and literally ended his career. And they took the touchdown away from him. It was just
and
I'll never
that's
get over
the
it.
final indignity there too.
Yeah, I mean, and his explanation made no sense. No sense at all. It's like whatever he said, it's like he sounded like he was drunk. Sound like your grandfather arguing politics with you at like Thanksgiving or something. Like it.
Sometimes you get to the end of the day and, you know, you need a little bit to get you through the end of the day there. So.
Ben, I got to ask you, have you ever officiated football games?
I never officiated. I started becoming more interested in the rules when I wrote to the NFL back in 1987. I said, you know, do you have a rule book that just like what the officials have? They said, send us $5 because, of course, any chance to make a buck, they will. They said, send $5, we'll ship one out to you. And so it was the same gray cover, plain book that just had all the rules up, down, and you know. But this was not something in the late '80s that was really available. Then come early '90s, they started putting them in bookstores, and so that was starting to evolve at that particular time. I just never got the bug to officiate. I always wish I could go back and get another shot at it. But you know, just things in life didn't line up. And that's a big thing about who elevates themselves in officiating. Getting that right person at that particular time to encourage that person to say, hey, you know what? Have you thought about officiating? Somebody who played high school ball doesn't get to the college level. You know, something to keep them in the game after that. Or even somebody that's been at a lower level of college, you know, start to look towards keeping yourself on the field by officiating. And if you get that one person, that one mentor to reach out to you at a very specific point, you know, then you start to breed these good officials.
Yeah. I got to tell you, Ben, you need to do a weekly podcast, maybe even daily podcast to explain what is going on. We need to talk after this show because for one thing, I'm just fascinated by the topic because there's so many moving levers with this whole officiating thing. There's the bad cause. There's a good cause. There's a story about the officials themselves, which you so perfectly capture on your blog on footballzebras.com. And there's just so many things that we can talk about. Mo Bierman has a great question here. How much research time did it take for you to do this book that you wrote on the NFL rules?
Well, I had about a year to write it, so I really had to get on my horse and run with it. And being as my nature is, I'm given a deadline and I just plow it right over and just keep forging ahead. So so the publisher was very good and accommodated my procrastination and such. But it was about a year, and it was just pretty much asking people, you know, write down some things that you remember and, you know, jog your brain. And boy, all sorts of things have come up in the 10 years since I wrote that. And, you know, there's all these little slips of paper. I tell you, right before the book finally went to the publisher, you know, when I got my manuscript finished, the dining room table was just littered with all these little pieces of paper. It looked like I was doing an abduction or something like that. It was all these scribbled notes of all sorts of games from different years and all that. So, and then, you know, somewhere down the line after the book's done, I find a piece of paper, you know, that could have been in the book. But so, you know, so what we do is we save that for the second edition.
Well, I'm really hoping that second edition comes out soon because there's just so much. I remember one of the officials after he retired complaining about how thick that NFL rule book is and everything that they have to remember. And he claimed it was an African-American official. You probably remember his name much faster than I can. But he said, you know, that most NFL officials probably know about 75% of the rule book because it's so big. and it's always changing. And one of the things that I've been preaching for years, there's several things about NFL officiating that I've been preaching. One of the things is make it simpler for the officials. For instance, 1 foot in bounds, like the college football game. I know that's going to destroy the rule book and people are going to complain and so forth, but it's easier to determine that there's 1 foot in bounds as opposed to 2 feet in bounds. So my question to you is, what would you like to see happen so that it could help NFL officials call a better game?
Well, and you actually hit one of the key points is that, you're recruiting officials from the college ranks. They come up to the NFL, and there's a completely new rule set. Game is faster, new rules, all of those exceptions. And, we do cover the bowl games, and I make sure that I sit back a little bit because I don't want to bring something from Sunday into Saturday football. And, so that's one of those things where there's all of these little things, but that's what makes the college game, and what makes the pro game. And they shared the same rule book for the first 15 years. And then eventually, NFL started to split off thanks to George Hallis. He really spearheaded that. And then they started off with, okay, here are the 5 or 6 exceptions from the college rule book. And then from there, it just started to go until about 1940, when they just wholesale rewrote the book. And now there's no alignment between Rule 3 over here and Rule 3 over here. It's a completely different rule book. And so then when you have to start picking apart where the differences are, it's not quite that easy. So, one of the ways it perhaps could be easier is to more align with the college rule book, or what I would prefer is the college rule book matches up with the NFL rule book, which is my forte. But that there's all that disparity, and then you also look at high school, and they have a completely different rule book as well. So there's all these little things, even fair catch kicks and all these obscurities. But I'm trying to see if I have it within reach distance, but I don't. I usually have my rule book no more than 6 feet away from me. But I actually happen to have the one from 1966 on my desk, and it's not
That's what it should look like. That's what today's rule book should look like. That's it. It really should. It drives me nuts that they've made the job of officials so tough, and they can make it easier also, Ben, I believe, with relying on instant replay for more and more calls. I mean, college football really does this much better. They go to the official replay, and in so many circumstances, I see the replay in college football be decided within 10 to 30 seconds. In the NFL, sometimes it lasts minutes. And they don't even rely on instant replay as much as college football does. We've seen recently this argument about the roughing the passer call. It's big into the headlines. We saw Tom Brady get away with a call, and we saw there was a Monday night game, I believe. I'm forgetting who it was, but
the Raiders and Chiefs.
The Raiders and Chiefs. Thank you, Dan. And so, what's your opinion on that? Should the NFL, and Mo Bierman has this right. I've been saying this not only about NFL officiating, but the U.S. Constitution. We need a constitutional convention and an NFL rulebooks convention, and just rewrite the entire thing. We have so much more information. We have so much more technology. We have so many more capabilities to get it right. Let's strip it all down and get it right. Your thoughts?
Well, one of the things, particularly, and that's a hell of a loaded question there, but one of the things that I did notice recently, and we were harping on it, is for replay, they really just gave like a quick bullet summary, and it was really not very robust. And I said, you know what? This needs to be split out and be a rule unto itself. You have pass, forward pass is a whole rule. Replay should be an entire rule. And eventually they did, and then they got into this is not. And I like the way that it's set up where it really governs lines, spots, possession, touching the ball, all of these elements that are really objective. You start getting into catch. Now it gets a little bit subjective, but the reason why we really nailed down a process of the catch was to allow replay to look at a catch, because there are very specific elements that have to come 1, 2, and 3. You see them in real time. You're like, aha, that's a catch. That is an NFL catch. That's what I want to see. I want to see the control of the ball. I want to see 2 feet, and I want to see him hold on to it for long enough that I know he's got a catch. In baseball, they're like, show me the ball. In football, it's do a football move, do something, hold on to it for some period of time. So what wound up happening is they wound up over-legislating it to an extent, just so that it could fit within the replay compartment. And then they eased it back. They pared a lot of it down. They went back to something that was, more one of these older books and not something, And then the question was, well, is that going to be enough? How are they going to make a determination? And then it just really came down to, well, they're going to use their officiating sense. You don't have to be told these are the specific elements that make a catch. The catch is a catch. And when we see possession, control of the ball, 2 feet, and that element of time, that's a catch in 1940. That's a catch in 2022. So I was glad that they kind of pared that element down. But then when you start to get into some of these things, pass interference, that's something that people thought the NFL sabotaged when they put that under the replay microscope. To some extent, I can't say that they didn't, but it was really when it became part of the rules, that was something that we internally were saying, well, how is this going to work? It's not really fitting into the mold of lines and spots and where the ball is when this is touched. It doesn't fit into any of those compartments. It's all completely judgment. And yeah, it fell on its face. So now we bring in pass interference because we have a couple of things we bring in roughing the passer because we have a couple of really high profile cases. We have one that's a straight up missed call. The referee saw an extra act that was perpetrated on the golden child of the NFL.
That's got to be Aaron Rodgers.
And so he's processing and he's like, did he just flip him over and drive him into the ground? Well, no, he's rolling over to avoid the contact that he's supposed to avoid. And so, he saw something that just wasn't there. In the Monday night game, there was a complicating factor of a fumble. It's not explicitly written in the book, but that's when right in the rules. But, you got to put your common sense and say, hey, you know what? He's got to go get that ball. Yes, we do want to protect the quarterback. Yes, the quarterback is vulnerable and can be hit unnecessarily. But the number one objective of the game is possession. And if you're going to tell a defender, watch what you do over here while you're trying to get the ball, instead of just piling on the friggin' ball, then, that's what everybody does. That's why they're allowed to review any fumble recovery after the whistle, because they said if they pile on the ball anyway. So you might as well just make that a reviewable element. And so in that case, when you start to add these subjective things, yes, it's going to catch the Tom Brady missed call. Yes, it has an opportunity to fix that Monday night one. Although, again, there are some mixed opinions on that. So even that, you might not get the satisfactory answer. I'm firmly in the court that the rule says due to the circumstances of the play, and a loose ball changes the circumstances of the play. But reasonable minds can disagree on that interpretation. And only one really does matter, and that's the senior vice president of officiating, Walt Anderson.
Well, what I was going to ask you, and this is sort of my recall quickly. But after Super Bowl 26, they did away with replay following the 1991 season, and it feels like it was Phil Luckett, who single-handedly brought it back with the blown call on Thanksgiving Day, 1998, when Bettis said heads or tails, whichever it was, and he claimed Detroit won the toss. And then, if my memory is correct, it was week 16 or 17, Seattle at the Jets, and Testaverde scored for the Jets, and he was like 4 yards short of the goal line. And look, I have no animosity toward Vinny, but he cost Dennis Erickson his job in Seattle. And so this one man single-handedly brought back replay. And I guess that's my question to you. It feels like, as a fan, that whenever an official blows a call and it's like everybody knows it, there's no accountability. They're still going to get a playoff game later that season. Am I wrong? Is there something the NFL does? They claim they grade them, but it feels like they can just do it with perpetuity and just keep making bad calls, and nobody gives a shit except for the Bears, who seem to be on the bottom end of some of those.
Well, yeah, and again, I get the frustration there, and part of replay's initial failure was they didn't really set up a system. They wanted to fix errors. So as they came up, the replay official would parachute in, make a change. And then we started to see, this 0-yard completion was reversed to an incomplete. Well, what the hell are you looking at that for? Let that stuff go, and let's deal with the big stuff here. And so it got bogged down. The equipment didn't work. The replays were substandard by what we see today. And so when we got to 1999, when they reinstituted replay, and yes, that the Testaverde play is the poster child for replay's return. Although I will also say that Bill Cowher, who I think we remember at one point, he was shoving
he lost his mind after that.
Gordon McCarter, the referee, for 12 on the field.
12 on the field, yeah.
All right,
so guess what made its way right in that rule? 12 on the field. So it's amazing how these things line up like that. But especially when you have an influential voice there. But one of the things that when that re-entered is, they threw in the challenge system and really made that part of it. But yeah, and I understand that, I think that Phil Luckett gets maligned, particularly on that Thanksgiving flip, because when we played the take back, you see Bettis go to the sideline and he says to Cowher, he says, I said, tails. Nobody really heard that in the original broadcast. They heard what they heard, and I understand all the uproar that went with it. But he even admitted it right to the coach there on the sideline. He was trying to say, but I didn't say heads all the way. I just kind of got halfway and pulled it back. Well, you can't do that. And that's why they changed the way they do the coin flips from now. You got to declare it in advance and then flip it. But yeah, so every year on Thanksgiving, our public service announcement goes out that at least in that case, Phil Luckett was right. I'm not going to touch the Vinny Testaverde thing because that kind of self-corrected by bringing replay in, save for Dennis Erickson. But that's one of those elements that and when you have a change like this, it's not one play that brings it in. Competition committee has about 10, 12 of these different plays, and they look over all this and they say, all right, well, this is what happened. We would like this not to happen. How do we get it so these 12 get in, and then these 5, which we think are on the other side, don't get in? And it's all this working back and forth. There's a lot more to what the competition committee does, and it's really intense what they do. I mean, they have a whole library of plays, and they just plunk right through them and go through them and craft that rule in a certain way. Then they'll also bring in the officiating department, and they'll help navigate about specific things, because sometimes if you say a specific word, that's defined somewhere else. So you might bring a new meaning into what you wrote in there. So that whole process, the whole sausage making process, which starts around the combine, where they have in-person meetings with the competition committee and all the way up through the owners meeting. I mean, that's a very involved process. And I don't think any of the other committees that are in the NFL really operate that intensely.
Again, I'm not saying I'm right on this. I'm asking your memory here, because you know what, all this shit. I'm just a regular fan is what I'm trying to say. Based upon my recollection, in '99 when they brought it back, this is some of my frustration. It felt like the language, and I could be wrong, is what I'm saying. I felt that the language was supposed to be, quote, clear and indisputable if they did an overturn, and it wasn't timed. Initially, it wasn't like 2 or 3 minutes they had to look at it, or a minute and a half in the first couple of years that it brought back. Now you can go take a piss, to take a shower, and they're still doing a replay. But the thing that, again, I'm so upset about, it used to be the standard, if I'm correct, was clear and indisputable. So unless it wasn't clear and indisputable, they would stick with the call on the field. But it feels like they switch it whenever the hell they want to, even if it's clear, if it's not clear and indisputable.
Well, we're mixing up a couple of terms. We started with indisputable, and then we moved towards clear and obvious. And clear and obvious is more of the, I see a catch, whereas under the indisputable, you say, well, yeah, he caught it, but maybe his hand's not underneath it all the way. Well,
like the Bert Emanuel play
right here. So I'm really assuming that the fingers attached to the hand are underneath the ball. And so they kind of got into these weird ends where they trip over their own feet, and they would start to say, well, it really can't exactly tell if his hands are. And sometimes you just have to say, look, from all angles here, we have a catch. And unless we see something that really throws us the other direction, we're going to stay with what's on the field. And that really has always been at the core of it. Stay with the call on the field until there's reason not to stay with the call on the field. So in some cases, yeah, you might have a wrong call on the field, and you might have replay where it gets screened out, or they just don't have the best angle on it. And, you don't get the overturn, or it might be something that falls outside of the purview of replay. And you can't fix it. A clear, obvious jersey tug. Well, we would like to have called DPI on that. Well, it was missed because it was on the other side. That the official that was covering it was screened, and he couldn't see behind the receiver to see that tug. So that's going to happen, and that's part of what the competition committee has determined is how far do we go? Do we accept some of these and know that there's going to be some outliers, but that in the general sense, this is all going to, play out in the wash. And, and time again, they keep coming back to it. And I say it now, and, I hate to be in the prediction business because it does come and bite you in the ass and if you're wrong. But you see these things where you have this blip with roughing the passer. I really don't think that we're going to be talking about it in week 10, week 15. We're going to be talking about it at the end of the season. The competition committee will spend 5 minutes on it, 10 minutes on it. Do we get it? Yeah, we're good. Just go through it. Yeah. They're not going to roll anything back in that, but they're going to acknowledge that, yeah, okay, well, there were some things missed. Well, could we have trained them differently? Could we have done something anywhere different in there? And in some cases, it's just like, what they saw with one shot. If they had the benefit of watching it a second time, maybe they changed their mind. But that's going to correct 2 calls out of the year and not touch any of the other multiple roughing the passer calls we have during the year.
I got to tell you, this is one of my most favorite interviews I've been doing this since 2014. And this is one of my favorite interviews because the topic of officiating is it's such a passionate topic with football fans, with myself. I've been very, very critical of officials through my Barroom Network Twitter account. And I also want to be fair-minded with officials because I know they're human beings and I know they're trying the best and so forth. So I got to ask you, Ben, is the NFL doing right by officials? given that they're not hiring them full time. I believe that it should be a 40 to 68 hour a week job. So what do they do outside the 3 hours on Sunday that they're spending on the football field? They should be evaluating tape. They should be consulting with one another. They should be having meetings with the crew people who are working that game so that they can talk about tendencies from the other team, so that they can maybe even talk to head coaches and stuff and find out, are you running anything special that we should be aware of? Or I don't know. I don't know if that's a good idea, but it just off the top of my head, what do you think that the NFL can do to help better the officiating in pro games?
Well, I can tell you 100% that every official does every single thing on that list during the week. Absolutely. And even down to the level of what is their tendency? Yes, we see that, Clay Matthews lowers the boom too much. We've got to watch that. He's going to try and trick us into, I braced myself, when really I just did like the Superman thing and really just lowered my belly on him. And, one of the things that wound up happening that first season where they tightened up the rules is, he got out in front of the league, and then they were like, and just trying to figure out how to catch up. And the linebackers were making them look ridiculous because they couldn't explain things in clear terms. Every single player saw the video in the preseason that said, this is what we're going to call. This is what we're not going to call. This is the type of hit we want. This is what we don't want. The ones that were more successful were such as, I throw this as an example, but others were following the same thing as Pete Carroll. He says, when you hit the quarterback, you're not going to hit him. You're going to wrap him up and twist him. When you wrap him up and twist him, you're not going to apply that roughing the passer type hit, and you're going to be able to roll over him. And so I didn't really run the numbers to see how that worked out, but we weren't hearing a lot from the teams that taught that method of wrapping up, pulling, and twisting. Get the legs out from the person, from the ball carrier. Because if they don't have their legs, they're not going anywhere. So that went to their benefit. And then there are others that are just like, I'm going to make this hit and I'm going to follow through. Now, the rule came about because, obviously these contracts for quarterbacks are going up and up and up. And owners are saying, this is where my money is invested. A considerable amount of money is being invested. I don't need, some rookie fatback coming in and taking out my whole franchise there. So, yeah, and it's one of those things where they said, we have to do more to protect the quarterback because we just have way too much invested in it. And of course, wherever the money is, that's where things happen. So that's, we also talk about how they do things to shorten the game. They're like, we can shave 90 seconds off of a game if we change this procedure. Well, that's TV money. TV money talks. But they get back to these hits on the quarterback. And, when they were formulating these rules, they had, former players and, they were describing some of the tactics that, it just sets the hair on the back of your neck on end. They're saying that, I get that one step. So I'm going to take that, but I'm going to put my face mask right here. And I'm going to try and crack some ribs, or I'm going to try and crack that chest plate. And you're like, all right, well, we know it's a rough game and all that, but when you hear it in words, you're like, it gets you, it sets you back a little bit, and you feel that tingle up your spine. And I think that's what wound up happening with the competition committee and the owners. They said, they're doing these things, and we don't want them to do it. We don't want them to just throw 350 pounds right on top of a guy that's just standing stationary in the backfield, not even running to try and mitigate any of that. We can't do that to our big investment in the franchise. We just can't do that and continue to have these punishing hits happen. What it does do is it then enters a lot of error into the equation. And like I said, how do you say, well, this is a brace and this was not, and it's one shot and you got to look at that. And I think when they get a clear look, they're pretty good at it. And they've even brought the umpire in. The umpire usually doesn't touch anything with the quarterback. He's watching holding. Now what they're saying is, all right, watch the hold. But when you see a guy streak in, just steal a glance at the quarterback. Make sure that, so that way, the referee's going to he's not going to have 360. And between the two of you, you're not going to have 360, but at least we'll have more angles covered. So now you got the umpire looking in one way, you have the referee looking in the other way. I mean, you used to have the umpire behind the defensive line. They might have been able to see something different from that angle, but that has come and gone for the NFL. But they are trying ways to improve it at all stages. It's just not fast enough, I don't think, for fans. They're seeing some of these things bleed through. And, then when you have ones that are just flat out missed calls, it really just kind of sets things back, because that has nothing to do with any kind of equation of what roughing the passer is. It really kind of distorts the discussion when we're really trying to hit some of these really important ones where quarterbacks are going out for the whole season. And so that's part of what has been worked on repeatedly. They keep going through the season. They don't change the interpretation, but they are every week they're given a tape and they go over this. And so you say 40 hours a week, I'd say they put 50. It really is a full-time job, and it's not given its due. The problem is about making full-time officials. There's several parts to it. But, the NFL is the one league that doesn't have it has a shorter season than the off season. The off season's longer. All the other sports, the season is longer than the off season. Mm-hmm. So now the question is, what do you do with the officials once February rolls around? Well, you can have them watch film, and they're not watching a 3-hour game. They're just watching every play. All the in between stuff is all edited out. You can bang out a game in an hour and a half. Okay, we could probably get the entire season. I could probably review the entire season in 2 weeks. So now we're up to maybe, just close to March. Now what do you do? And they do clinics and they do things with other officials that are up and coming. There's all these officiating camps from coast to coast. So they do take parts in those. There's all sorts of mentoring that goes along with that. I'd like to see a few of them get more involved in the rules making process. Not every one of them is like a rules wonk. So, find your good ones that really want to get deep into those things. And that's what they did a few years ago when they called the full-time officials. It was still part-time, but you had to put the NFL as their primary. And really, they just it was really ceremonious. They were kind of taking care of these little in-between things, but it really was not what we would think is a full-time job. And I'll have to say, 123 officials, they do put a full-time job in during the season. It is not just the 3 hours on the field.
Do you think the Charles Woodson play with Tom Brady was a fumble?
Well, that was the rule at the time, and it was clunky wording. And so that's one of those things where, and it came back to when they eventually did get that rule out of the book. And let's also, let's blame replay on, why not? It's an easy scapegoat. But part of that is, when is that a pass and when are you tucking it into your body, and where it would then become a fumble? So they're just trying to say, well, if it's still doing this, then it's still going forward, so we're going to count that. So then you get into these situations where it's like, all right, it's down in front of him, ball is loose. So as the rule was written at the time, that was that was a part of the tuck rule, and that counts as an incomplete pass. And Walt Coleman was forever maligned in Oakland and never worked a Raiders game again.
He shouldn't
worked-
have.
he
That call
worked
was
about
never made
400
before then.
games after that, not one of them was involving the Raiders.
I never heard that rule ever before. And the less if we heard of Walt Coleman's accent, the better.
And it actually, in fairness, the thing is that these things that happen in divisional playoff games that are like everybody's there and everybody's watching it, they see it. And I'm hard pressed to remember the exact circumstances. And, the way it works is when the camera comes off, it hits me right then. But earlier in the season, there was a tuck rule call, but it was in the middle of a regional Sunday game before Twitter, and so so therefore it just got lost in the ether there. And then somebody's going through old games, 10 years later, and like, hey, look at that they called the tuck rule. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm probably mistaken. I do think it was the Patriots, but they were on the opposite side. If I'm remembering it correctly, it was against the Jets. But my phone isn't binging yet, so I don't think nobody's sending me any corrections right now. So, but that happens during the season. But if a tuck rule happens and nobody sees it, does it happen? So I guess that's really what it came down to, is it happened on the biggest stage. And that's where a lot of these things that do happen that get a lot of attention, it's because they happen in these big moments, like when they revised overtime. If we don't have that championship game go into a one possession overtime, they're probably not even talking about revising the overtime, which they only did for the postseason, which is a ridiculous construct on that. But I'm talking to Chicago and defense, and I think we kind of sit on this line of you play both sides of the ball, and sudden death means sudden death. But reasonable people disagree, and that was a fight that I lost about 12 years ago, and so this is the new way. But it's creeping in a little bit now. It starts out as a field goal. Now it's like any touchdown or field goal, and and then they're getting into safeties and onside kicks and all the stuff that brings in. But it's these things that happen on the big stage that we notice. The pass interference, of course.
Ben, we got tons of great questions in the chat room, but because of time purposes, I'm only going to choose two. King Pookie Nation just asked the question, do referees get fined? And then Casey earlier asked the question, do you think that referees should be held more accountable, like a lot of folks are saying, fines, suspensions, etc., instead of just being a red mark on your yearly official scorecard? Your thoughts?
Well, it's one of those, I understand where it's coming from. I get it. And especially your team gets hosed, in a case where, we had a third down stop and now the game-winning drive wound up continuing. That is incredibly frustrating. And I get that. And I understand that it's like, who's to account for this? And, on the other side of the equation, you look at, players and coaches make these missed calls all the time. The mistakes that are made on that side, on the player and coach side, probably are far more than what happens to officials, which are held to a very high standard. I mean, you can go with what the NFL says. They say 98%. It might be closer to 96%, but still it's pretty damn good. You kind of hope that, your brain surgeon, you want to be 100%. Your official, 98%, you can kind of give a little on that. But that's one of the things. Do suspensions, do fines make better officiating? What it really comes back to is that doesn't really help. It's not like a situation where they called this because of whatever it is. Maybe they were just a little bit out of position, didn't see something. So to put a heavy-handed punishment doesn't make it that get any better. And, and that's what you have to look at is what's the incremental value on that? What do we get in return for that? Now, if you have an official that is systemically missing some things, well, then you got to tell them, maybe it's time to either see the eye doctor or pack it up, and we'll write a number on a piece of paper here, and you can take that and leave, or otherwise we'll really make things difficult for you. And you had some situations where even when Mike Pereira was the head of officiating, we have what was called a Pereira purge. Basically, he let go a lot of people based on the size of their waistband. He says, we want more fit officials. Well, he ran afoul of the union and all that, and then there was arguing back and forth. So they brought a few people back in the replay so that they could work on that, sitting in that chair and work on that size factor. And but that's the thing, is that they kind of ran into some of these problems when they did try to put in discipline in certain areas. But not getting a playoff game, that is really big. It seems like it's a slap on the wrist. It's a big thing. It's playoff money that you miss out on. So that does mean something. It is a penalty on them if they're not able to make that. So there are consequences, and eventually you'll work your way out of the league. It doesn't happen too terribly often. It's usually with some of the older officials. They say, it's time for you to go, isn't it? And then they'll voluntold them into retirement instead of volunteering them into retirement. But but there's a handful of cases, and they fired one in the middle of the season, which was completely unheard of. But in that case, the league says, look, there was a real systemic. Every week we were seeing things on a repetitive basis, and we had to take action. But it still comes back to, does that improve officiating? And the same comes back to full-time officials. Does having full-time officials having no outside job, now you're going to narrow your pool of who's available to officiate. Do you now move your 98% up to 99? Do you get that one? Is it worth that 1%? Or, maybe it is, but maybe it also goes backwards as well. So it's all baked into the calculations as to what would really improve officiating.
Did you see the Chicago-Pittsburgh game last season when Tony Corrente, and before the game, I was like, oh, shit, guys. I was at the game. Every time Tony Corrente does a Bears game, we get screwed on something. Late in the game, when the Bears had to stop to win the game, a kid named Marsh, who had been with Pittsburgh briefly, got a game-winning sack, essentially, and then Tony Corrente, hip checks him and throws a flag on him, and he initiated the contact and then claimed that Marsh was taunting the Steelers when the replay showed he wasn't, and Corrente initiated contact with him. That kind of stuff makes me want, it makes me want to swear is what I'm saying to you. I know Corrente retired at the end of the season, but he should be publicly scorned for that. When he initiated the contact, anyone with eyes knows he did it, but he did not have the temerity to admit that shit was his fault.
Well, and I know what everybody. So here's me running. Here we go, right here.
Please watch this. Watch this.
Just hear that flag out. See, that's part of where. Yeah. See, when he was already on calling a taunting foul, and I'll get to that part in a little bit. But that was the thing, was part of the ripping that out of his belt. But yeah, in slow motion. Yeah, it looks like he's knocking him over there.
Show him the whole play, Aldo. To see if it's taunting before that, please. If you could trim the whole play.
It wasn't the play wasn't taunting, but here was the situation: is they threw out a bunch of things saying, "Hey, look, we're getting into all these skirmishes at the end of in the middle of the games, and it's becoming harder to officiate. It takes time to disperse this." We don't want, the network doesn't want to see us dispersing players after every series there. So, they said, we're going to start cracking down on this. We don't want to see this as part of the game. So after the play, and I'm looking at this, and, he does turn to the Steelers sideline. Was it enough? Yeah, see, now this is one of those things. Is that directed towards the Steelers sideline? And that's one of the things where they gave him such a black and white thing that they said, you got to call these things. And then they really had to look at it in the offseason and say, all right, yeah, we see how you got down this road. We got to pull you back. And for 2022, we've got to see this more down with this alignment. And they've even said, if the player gets up and walks away, we're good. Even if it seems like he's pointing or doing something like that, unless it's really an obvious overt and that it's directed, then, we're going to say if you get up and walk away, you're good. If you linger and start hovering over a player, now we're going to call it. So in that particular case, I did feel bad for I'm getting myself put on a pike, I'm sure, for this. I see where he got to this call and how it went down that road. And yeah, it wasn't taunting, but it was this whole pile on of, we really need to pull in a lot of these extracurricular acts. And so
for 20 years, the NFL allowed
Neil Smith. Is he strutting towards the sideline? Kind of, but not really. So you kind of have to put your officiating sense on and say, all right, we're not going to call that. And maybe we just say, hey, look, don't, stay on your side of the hash marks. There was no need to go that far. You didn't go in front of the bench. And so that's part of what we call preventive officiating, where an official will work with somebody and they'll say, hey, look, you're too far off the line. You're a yard and a half off. You're okay, but we want you to scooch up a little bit. Or, we see a lot of grabbing here and you're starting to get around the frame and you haven't, we haven't called it because it hasn't impacted the play. It hasn't been close enough to where it avoids a sack. So we haven't called it. That doesn't mean we're not going to call. So they're like chatting with the players throughout the game. Hey, watch yourself. You're starting to get that outside of the frame. I'm going to call holding on you if it gets any more egregious. You've got to pull that back. So this kind of conversation is had throughout the game. And I think in that taunting situation, that would have been the better thing to have done in that particular situation.
I remember for years, Neil Smith was allowed to do the baseball home run motion every time he got a sack, or even going back farther than that, Gastineau was allowed to celebrate after every sack. But this obscure kid gets a sack, and they have to overturn the outcome of the game. Tony Correnti always did stuff like that against the Bears. Well, I'm glad he's gone. I hope he's miserable wherever he's at. I hope he's addicted to crack.
That's a Bears fan talking right there. And I'm with him, by the way. I got to tell you.
Look, Ben, I know it's 3-on-1s, and I can take it. It's fine.
But I got to tell you, Ben, I agree with a lot of what you're saying. That particular call there, it is tough. If I had my way, the officials would have been meeting, as you said, for 40, 50 hours, and they would have known that Clay Marsh was a former player of the Pittsburgh Steelers. He might be prone to taunting, so keep an eye on that. Now, I'm not saying that was the right call or wrong call, but I do think that adds to the ambiguity of what happened there. And, I got to tell you, again, like I said, we have so many great questions. St. Omni, for instance, wanted to know how big Ed Hochuli's biceps are. Not that you would know, but perhaps you would know.
I got the picture right up there. I can measure it if I want me to.
Well, how big are those Ed Hochuli biceps?
I don't want to get close enough to find out. That's how big they are.
There you go. All right, but the most important question that I have for you, and it was actually inspired by Renewables chat claim here, or question, knowing how subjective these games are to the whimsy of refs and umps, why bet on them? And then I'm also asking this on behalf of Johnny Santucci, our resident handicapper here at the Barroom Network. Can you give us any clue to help us when we're betting as to, should we go to your website and find out? You're already smiling because you know what I'm asking. Can you help us win some more bets based on, who's calling games? I was at a Bears game with my buddy Dan last year, and we felt that the calls in favor of the Detroit Lions were going against the Bears, and then Dan says, who the hell is that referee? And so I went to your website and I saw, the referee is from Michigan. Maybe he's calling games in favor. And Dan was like, stood up and just tell you, he's from Michigan, and so forth. So the long-winded question is there anything that you can offer handicappers, bettors, and so forth, a clue as to what might help determine who's going to win the game?
Well, and the ones that really want to know this are the coaches. They run like an astounding amount of analytics on the crews. Now, they have to, the missing puzzle pieces, they don't know who dropped the flag. You know, I mean, you can kind of suss that out from video and doing that. And we considered that at one stage. Like, do we go through every play? And it's like, but then what? You have a bunch of numbers. What are you going to do with that? So, you know, we kind of backed off of that. Let PFF take care of stuff like that if they want to. But, you know, they are looking for that kind of data. They're looking for what did crews call. Now, you have, you know, all the crews are established, but during the season, they do switch people in and out. There are injuries. They have a couple of swing officials that will move from crew to crew. So they have, you know, they have a bench, but they're not going to let them sit all season. So they'll insert themselves into crews throughout the season. And so once you change that balance a little bit, you know, any kind of statistics are out the window. On top of the fact, if you get an official and you're 5 weeks in, you're like, my gosh, they're calling false starts. Well, maybe they had a whole bunch of false starts, or they had too many ineligible downfield calls, and Bill Vinovich's crew calls most of that. It's like, well, maybe they played a bunch of shitty teams. You don't know what the balance is. You know, there's all of these mitigating factors. Then you add to the fact that, you know, as much as they don't want to admit this, they will steer their veteran crews towards like the Pittsburgh-Cincinnati game. They're like, that's just a boiling pot. We don't need to throw the rookie in there and let his ass chewed. So we're going to go out there and we're going to put Bill Vinovich, or, you know, say I'm going to leave somebody out and all that. But there are a lot of ones that have gotten and you can tell at the end of the season, it's the ones that you see in the championship game. It is the ones you see in the Super Bowl. And to some extent, you'll see them in the divisional playoffs as well. But everybody that makes the playoffs, you know, those are your top tier officials. And so, you know, they get those games. And so half of them don't, and they'll work as alternates in some cases. In some cases, they get frozen out of assignments entirely. But you're looking at like, you know, maybe you say, all right, we'll steer one of our better officials towards this divisional matchup. And then, you know, Jacksonville will get a bunch of these other officials. Not to malign my fair city there.
Ben, I got to tell you, this has been a lot of fun talking officiating with you. I hope we can make arrangements to have you back. And I really do believe you need to do a weekly, maybe even daily podcast, because there's just so much to talk about. The book you wrote is entitled So You Think You Know Football, the Armchair's Ref's Guide to the Official Rules. I highly recommend it. I highly recommend the website to footballzebras.com. Ben does such an outstanding job, and he's got a cast of supporting writers too who really know their stuff. Maybe we can do a podcast with some or all of you because it's just such a fun topic to talk about.
The podcast is on the way as soon as I invent the 30-hour week or 30-hour day. 30-hour day.
I know what you're talking about. We do a lot of shows here, and I wish there were more hours to the day. But listen, if you need any help, let's talk offline. Ben Ostro is the proper pronunciation, right? Ben Ostro.
Yes,
footballzebras.com. Make sure you visit the website. And Ben, I cannot stress enough how much fun this was to talk football officiating with you. Take care, and hopefully we'll see you again real soon. Okay.
Sure thing. Glad to join you. Thanks.
Take care. Dan Aguirre, what do you think, man?
I was going to ask him how big Johnny Greer's dick was, but I didn't get around to it. Nah, I'm just kidding.
Maybe Johnny Santucci knows. Santucci, how are you, my friend?
That was really interesting.
That was interesting. And by the way, I'm looking at you during the interview because I got this great viewpoint. I can see all of our guests and so forth. And I see you like looking at your above screen. So I know what you're doing when you're looking at those screens. You're looking at your bets. You want to know. So how are you doing tonight?
I wish I'm look, I actually have to do some work because I got that freaking Entertainment Weekly magazine. So I'm like, gotta have some stuff done. And then Midwest Living, I got that magazine coming too. So I'm kind of like monitoring some stuff. And then, the proofers at work went down. I've been logging in there to see if, recalibration finished. So I had at past 2 nights, I think I've worked till 10 at night. So, but I'm also looking at the Calgary Flames Golden Knights game, which I like the Flames in this one, but it's tied 2-2. So had the Islanders that one, and had I've been doing pretty good in hockey. I mean, there's not much else, baseball's been, I don't know, it's tough.
Fuck baseball. Don't bet on baseball is what I tell everybody right now. You want to bet
like
on
the under today, and then people are like, oh, it's going to go over. I was like, what? So I laid off baseball, but
I think Dan has it right. Don't bet at all. Hey guys, I got to make a quick run to the restroom. Dan and Tooch, can you take it away for a minute?
Yeah, when you come back, I'm going too.
Okay, good.
I've drunk a lot of Gatorade and water here tonight. So.
Okay, I'm first this time.
I used the backstage lavatory while I was back there, Danny.
Gotcha. I didn't mean to get so fired up when talking about the Marsh play last year, but God, we got fucking cheated in Pittsburgh, man.
Yeah, one of the worst. That and the Zach Miller call. I never understood the Zach Miller call, man. It was a fucking catch to anybody.
Except Al Riveron, who was so proud to talk about why it was not a catch, and his explanation made no sense whatsoever.
Horse shit.
Yeah.
But I mean, and then after that, that on that play, it ended his career too. It's just
he almost died, literally.
Yeah, he almost died, and his career was over. Just
they give the Bears props for taking care of him medically, man. They even had him on the roster the next year at one point for a while, so the insurance would help pay for him and things, even though they knew he wasn't going to play.
St. Omni says, I guess the show has turned into guys taking bathroom breaks.
Hey, man, I'm in my 40s now. I guess that's a thing, right?
Wait till you get to your 50s. You can't make it through a night of sleep without getting up once or twice to pee.
Yeah. I hear Sylvie talk about that whenever I listen to them.
Yep. Yeah, it sucks. I mean, I have so many. I mean, this is like the second or third week in a row where the Bears could have won the game. Last weekend was just, I mean, the Commanders didn't win that game. The Bears freaking lost it.
And Carson Wentz isn't even playing this week. They've got the guy that played the playoff game against Brady a few years ago.
Right.
Tyler Henneke or whatever his fucking name is. He's playing this week.
Yep, he is. He's starting for the Commanders.
Yeah, against the Packers, Commanders and Packers.
I cannot wait to see the Packers lose their third consecutive games. This team, despite the talent they have, they're very talented, especially on the defensive line. Offense, they're not very talented. And Aaron Rodgers is like totally fucking zoned out. I think he's playing on ayahuasca every week. But I'm just so excited to see the downfall of the Green Bay Packers. The only thing that would have made it better if the Bears would have beaten them that week 2. Was it week 2? Whatever it was. Yeah. Dan, go use the pisser, and then Tooch and I are going to make love here.
Aldo, their state of affairs was really easy to write this past week, just because there were so many things The drama was peak Bears drama.
Hmm.
Peak Bears drama.
It was beautifully done, Tooch, by the way. That was your best, your Bear State of Affairs.
It kind of writes itself sometimes, Aldo.
You're right.
The Bears, it wouldn't be the Bears if it didn't have, drama, ridiculous things happen, fans panicking, undue criticism. But I mean, my thing is Justin Fields, he holds on to the ball. I had a stat here. Let me see if I can find it. I have so many screens on up here too. There was a stat about Justin Fields holding on to the ball.
Mm-hmm.
It was from ESPN sports analytics writer Seth Walder.
Who got a lot of shit for that. But
yes.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Right. I don't know if anybody saw this, but he detailed how only five of the 23 sacks that Justin Fields has taken this season occurred in fewer than 4.29 seconds, which is the median time NFL quarterbacks spend in the pocket. Walder concluded that Fields often holds on to the ball too long, which, I mean, he's a 22-year-old kid learning a voluminous playbook, learning the NFL game, and you had some good plays. Tape to watch there where, especially the Kurt Warner stuff, you got to throw it. That's something every quarterback has to learn, is that one, the window is a lot smaller from college. A guy is open if he's like one or two steps, one step,
Mm-hmm.
You could be 3 feet from a guy and that's open in the NFL. That's something that's very hard for quarterbacks, especially young quarterbacks, to get used to. It's just the way it is. You have to with a young quarterback, you have to wait for that for him to get used to stuff like that. But
the thing is, Tooch, is that we waited for Mitchell Trubisky, and
we did.
He did not do it, and he still has had issues.
Right.
Pittsburgh Steelers fans have recognized it. The astute Pittsburgh Steelers fans have been complaining about the same thing that we complained about with Mitch. He just doesn't see the field very well, and that's what's happening with Justin Fields. And so the anticipation is that because of his remarkable physical talents, that he's also, and because he's a smart kid, that he's going to correct those. But hey, it's 15, 16 starts now, and we're not seeing major advances now. Now, it could happen. We had on as a guest last week, you and I, when Dan was on break a couple of weeks ago, we had on Coach T. Coach T predicted by game 8 or 9, we would see the advancements. So I think
that's fair, Yeah,
I think it's fair too, and I'm very willing to be patient about it. But hell, I'm nervous.
I can't count last season. I know you said like 16 games or whatever it is, because it was, a coach who was not a good coach. Let's just be honest, and he was a lame duck coach. He was, we can deny it all we want, but I mean, the writing was on the wall that he was out the door, right? Wouldn't you say? It probably wasn't whispers at the end of the season. Around as you got towards the end of last season, it was shouts instead of whispers that Nagy was going to be there. That kind of talk. I mean, you see it if you're working a regular job, you see stuff like that. It's not long before the big boss is let go, or something like that. I've been in situations like that where the VP, has been, maybe doing some things he shouldn't have been doing. Maybe the company credit card was overused, and the boss was on his way out or whatever it is. But the whispers were there from Matt Nagy. I can't count Matt Nagy's season with Justin Fields because, I mean, he comes into it, he just replaces Mitchell Trubisky. He's a rookie, and he's got into this. He's got into the situation. By all accounts, we had sort of the I don't know whether the idea or at least the talk that they didn't want Nagy didn't want Fields to start yet. It wasn't really his. Didn't think he was ready and stuff. And that's probably a lot of truth to that. And I can't remember who was in the chat room that said Justin Fields was asked whether he thought the NFL game was fast. He's like, doesn't seem too fast to me, but
that's what he said before he started his first NFL game, and
right,
that's haunted him.
Yeah, because I mean, think about it. You're a 21 or 22-year-old kid, and someone asks you a question like that. You're not going to say, "Ooh, boy, it's really fast." You know, you're a kid. You don't want someone to say, "Why the fuck did you say that?" You know, of course he's gonna. What else is he gonna say? Is my point. But
Yeah, he said that before he saw any action in a real NFL game.
Yeah.
And so, you know, he should have known better. But like you said, he's a young man. He's a kid. I hate to call them kids because they're, you know, you're old enough to kick my ass. I know that.
Yeah, but this
yeah,
the last game, man, it was like incredible performance by the kid. He was getting pressure on 46% of his dropbacks.
Mm-hmm.
You know, 40. So every other play, he's getting hammered. You know, I mean, there was a time where I was like, this kid's not going to last the season during this game. I'm like, someone's going to like hit him just right, blow out his knee or break an ankle, you know, maybe like a Tim Krumryer, Zach Miller, or Robin Ventura flapping ankle, you know, and that's it for the kid, you know? But yeah, I mean, I just, I you don't see many performances that tough. And what impressed me was that he's going to do whatever it takes to try and win, you know, give it everything, you know, you cut off one of his arms. He's still going to try and fucking win the game.
Yep. Indeed.
You know, but if you don't admire that, you're a Bears fan, you admire one of your players doing something like that. I don't know what's wrong with you, man, because fucking, I don't care if the kid's learning, but you know, to me, the more I thought about the game and the season up to this point, the less I liked Ryan Poles, you know, the less impressed I was with what he's done. You know, you talk about, he turned 5 picks into 11. He turned 5 picks that could have been like really good players into 11 picks, maybe 3 that are good and 8 that are probably not going to make an NFL roster in a year or two. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm sorry to say, but I mean, you could trade back, but I mean, the dude traded back so much. Like I think I said the day after the draft ended, it's like, I thought he was going to trade out forever, never have any picks in the game. He traded back so many times.
John, you make a really good point there. And it's only time will tell whether, you know, the trading back was a good idea, you know, based on what we see as some of these players. But I do agree with you that sometimes trading back to accumulate more draft picks just means you're going to accumulate more mediocre players.
Yeah.
If you're really, really happy with your board and you really think that there's some players who are worthy of being picked in the 5th round, but you're trading those for 7th rounders, then maybe you're hurting yourself. Dan Aguirre, are you still there?
Yeah, I've been back for a while. I didn't want to interrupt Tooch. No, he was making great points, so I didn't want to interrupt. But I do got to go. I'm sorry I got fired up during the interview. No, it's okay. It's okay. You were doing well. I'm sorry I got fired up during the interview with the ref guy.
Yeah, that was great.
I'm so glad you did. I mean, I expected that out of you, Dan. I really did.
Well, I didn't mean to yell. I don't feel well either, so I'm just glad I made it through the show, honestly. That's why I was drinking so many liquids to get rehydrated, and that's hence my multiple pisses, I think.
So you're headed now to your 911 job?
Yeah, I don't feel like it, but yes, I'm going.
How has that been lately for you, Dan? I know that you've voiced privately some frustrations with that job. Is there anything you want to share publicly?
No, I mean, no. It's just the enormity of both jobs all the time.
I can't imagine that job. Imagine it's like the pressure, the stress, like air traffic controller type stress, you know, being a 911 operator and dealing with that kind of intensity, like for 8 hours straight or whatever your shift is.
Yeah, I've worked a bunch of 16s.
Yeah.
So yeah, by the time you get through 16, you're like, okay, I could see why De Niro would snap in Taxi Driver at this point.
Well, I think anybody that works that 911 board should be making at least $125,000 a year, and also getting benefits after the age of 50 or 55. So I'm glad you're making that kind of money, Dan.
I'm not making that kind of money. I'm doing okay. Like for the area, they pay me well. Good. For our area, like if I was in downtown Chicago, they'd be like $22 an hour. That's bullshit. You know? But here, that's okay. You know.
That's funny. All right, Dan, we will let you go say some lines.
Oh, wait. Danny, hold on. I forgot I got something for you that I collected.
Okay.
Here it's like 12 seconds of this. Your favorite broadcaster. Ready?
Yes.
A little taste of some of these big guys coming out hitting them. Like, all right, you think you're going to run around our guy? How about if you get a little taste of Landon Dickerson coming right down your throat?
Wow.
Coming right down your throat, Danny.
Thank you,
I thought he
Collinsworth.
was talking about Aaron
I thought he was talking about Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, exactly. I recorded that one. I thought of you immediately.
Chris is just getting obscenely dirty for NBC.
You can't help but suck a player's dick.
That's right. Well, I got to go let them come down my throat at the other job now. So,
All right, get out of here, man.
All right, gentlemen. Talk to you later.
All right, love you. That is the great Dan Aguirre. And by the way, I just want to remind people that Dan, let me get rid of that graphic. Dan and Tooch, are you going to be available November 5th to join us for the party?
Yeah, I'm going to come out. Yeah.
All right. And for those of you,
I got to see my Uncle Mike.
That's right. Oh my gosh.
Can't wait to give him a big hug.
Give him a big hug, but remember,
yep,
he doesn't like physical contact.
No, I know. He's like my grandpa. Right. Can't wait.
Yeah, for those of you who were not with us at the early part of the show, it's going to be a Barflies Get to Meet the Barroom Network show host. Dan Aguirre is going to be there. Mike North, Johnny Santucci, Johnny Buffone. I'm going to be there. Danny Shimmon's going to be there. Neil Stopchinski is going to be there. Vinny Parisi is going to be there. A number of other
Joey Mandel, maybe?
I think so. I haven't talked to Joey yet. I know
my radio son.
Yes, I know he's living up in Michigan now.
That's right. Yeah,
I'm hoping that he can make the trip, but I'm finalizing the details on the venue. But I'm pretty sure it is going to be in the O'Hare Airport area. They got plenty of parking spots there that are free once you get your parking spot validated. The one place my wife and I visited, we did what is called in the event management industry a site survey. Has free parking, bowling, video games, a pool table, drinks and food. So we're hoping that you guys can all join us there and interact with us face to face, not just through a chat room. So we're really hoping that we can make that happen. I'm actually having a meeting tomorrow afternoon with the venue event manager. And so if everything goes well, we will have the name and address of the venue finalized by tomorrow. It should be a great time.
It's like noon, right, on Saturday, so it's a daytime.
Exactly. So this is first and foremost an opportunity for all of the barroom show hosts to get together and celebrate our successes, but at the same time, this is an opportunity for all the barflies to join and interact with your favorite show hosts. So I totally expect nobody to bother me during that time, because there's going to be so many great people there. But it should be great. Swanky, I hope you're in town. Swanky, of course, wants to know if there's going to be a Gold Room Gentlemen's Club. Swanky, by the way, has struck
full
out.
Of MILFs.
Yeah, he struck
full
out
of MILFs.
He has struck out twice with MILFs, and so he really, Swanky and I need to get into a private room so I can give him one-on-one consultation on this problem. So
he's kind of like the Bears games the last 2 weeks. So close.
No, man, I better see you there, man. You want fat hookers? I'll take care of you, man.
Is Nomad coming out?
I don't know. He better. Better. I know that he's very protective of his identity, but this is the time to show who you
I know
are.
Pookie will probably be there.
King Pookie Nation was there last.
Last time. Yep.
Yeah, Dan Aguirre was there. You got to meet him. And
what about Retro? Is Retro coming?
Retro's out of New Jersey. I don't know if he's going to be in town for that game, but
Shorty is Florida.
Mr. Shorty will be in town. He's actually we're going to be seated next to him at the game. Dan and I will be seated next to him at the game. So he'll be in town, and so Mr. Shorty and his beautiful wife. And I don't know whether I should refer to her as her first name, but Kitty is the show name. Kitty and Mr. Shorty will be there as well.
Wow, Retro's in Delaware. That's right. Yeah, he told
Delaware.
us that.
What the fuck? Who the hell lives in Delaware?
Yeah.
I mean, I find that hard to believe.
Yeah.
He's such a New Jersey guy.
Yeah, and Calgary Flames just came 3 minutes left in the game, 3-2 now. Ooh, I love it when I get something right.
Oh, that's right. Joe Biden is from Delaware. He takes the train to Washington D.C. and doesn't talk to anybody. He doesn't know what else going on. All right.
You know what? Ryan Pace better go fucking suck a dick. You know.
Voice from the past.
I got so mad at Poles and Pace after this last game. Like I said in Bears State of Affairs, that Ryan Pace, for his swings and misses, just dumb swings and misses. That's like, and Ryan Poles, Ryan Pace rode high on a locker room that John Fox had built, and early free agent acquisitions like Khalil Mack and stuff, which I still and Dan Aguirre would agree we traded away a considerable amount of our future to acquire him, but we hadn't really had a stud pass rusher like that for quite some time. So Bear fans at the time were generally happy with it, but after a while, you're just like, oh, the roster just declined. There was the salary cap was a mess until he finally was shown the door unceremoniously.
Yep.
And then Ryan Poles came in and just, for an offensive lineman to build an offensive line with, or not, it's like a guy that you work with that thinks he's the smartest guy in the room, but does a half-assed job at everything. Just a little bit.
I'm not going there quite yet, Tooch. And
right? No, I know.
You may be right. You may be absolutely right, but I do want to give him another year to build this offensive line. And so, one of the things that Eberflus and Poles talked about at length was we are going to play young players. And the reason they were saying that was because they wanted to play these young guys to see what they got. And so we're 5-6 games into the season.
That's
and
a great point, Aldo, you make.
Yeah. Now, I want to say one other thing about Ryan Pace, because my mom, who passed away about a month ago, so forth, and her dying words was, we were talking about Ryan Pace, and this is what she said.
He's a fucking idiot.
Those were my mom's dying words.
I couldn't get to the button faster than you, Aldo.
He's a fucking idiot.
Yeah, Mom, I miss you. I love you.
He's a fucking idiot.
He is, Mom.
He's a fucking idiot.
But
I think you were talking about me there, but we're gonna. Oh, wait a minute. It's on a loop. That's why.
Yeah, it's on a loop. Yeah, you have to turn it off, actually. But I was enjoying it.
Me too. I love you, Mom. I love you.
I can't help but say what I've always said about Eberflus and Poles is that we got two more guys that are kind of like guys that we always get, just coaches and GMs that are, first time guys doing it, learning on the job. The defense, we hired a defensive guy, and that's fine. But if you look at the NFL, it's kind of an offensive league now, and I'm not certain that Luke Getsy is really all that, maybe the offensive line and the quarterback, of course, are dragging it down a little bit, and it's probably a little of both. But Ryan Poles, man, the trading back, we could have gotten maybe traded back once, maybe twice, and gotten some decent. He didn't draft enough offensive linemen that I know hindsight is 2020, but I'm sure there were certain Bears barroom folks that wanted some offensive linemen here. Jordan Severa, but and the wide receiver room isn't great. We got guys. I'm impressed with Equinemius St. Brown. I think he's done a pretty good job.
Yeah.
other than that, it's like you've got another rookie who let the football hit off his face mask and probably cost us the game. But I mean, we got down to the goal line. Another interception with of Fields. That one bounced off of one of the Commanders' defensive lineman's helmet. And I think Cole Kmet was open on that play. Could have been a different situation and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people wanted Brian Daboll, and look at the success he's had with maybe a shittier roster than the Bears, but I don't know.
Yeah, and I don't know about that. Jordan Silvera, my good buddy from Necessities and stuff, he and I have had kind of this Twitter battle on that. It's
all in good fun, though.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I love Jordan.
Don't get worried, Barflies.
Yeah, this guy is fucking brilliant.
He is brilliant.
But I disagree with some of his takes. And one of his takes is that he felt that the New York Giants and the Chicago Bears started off from basically a similar position in terms of roster and so forth. And I pointed out to him, no, that's not the case. When the new GMs and new coaches inherited their teams, Ryan Poles with the Chicago Bears and the GM with the New York Giants, the Giants had like 14 draft picks and they had so much capital to work with. Plus, they had a quarterback who had close to 50 game starts as opposed to Justin Fields, who had 13. And that means a lot. Now, when Jordan says Brian Daboll would have been the best coach, and other people I see in the chat room are saying the same thing, would have been the best coach for the Chicago Bears, it's hard to fucking argue with that based on what we're seeing and based on what we're seeing Daboll do with Daniel Jones. Really fucking hard to argue with that. So applause. That seems to have been the better choice.
Yeah.
I wish you were in charge of hiring other than the McCaskies, but it is what it is. We got Eberflus and Poles, and they're taking a much more deliberate, slow approach towards building the team. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of what I would have liked to have seen Ryan Poles do. Trade back and maybe get one or two extra picks in this draft. And if he was going to trade away, even farther, I might have preferred getting picks in next year's draft, but trading. But I mean, I think what he's got to do now is, from this point on, the schedule gets a little more difficult. We can all agree, I think, right? It gets a lot more difficult.
Fucking hey, I got the schedule on my.
Yeah, you got that schedule. We can flash. Yeah, there we go. Okay, hold on.
John Buffon likes to make fun of it because I got the primetime games.
Yeah,
he calls those spotlights Martians stuff.
Little Martians flying away.
Yeah. But yeah, we got a Monday Night Football game with the Patriots. And Belichick, Belichick will probably outcoach Eberflus. The Cowboys are
probably.
Yeah, really. bad choice of words.
The guys in the chat room had it pegged. I think J2K and Leo and I forget who, maybe Jamal and Torian and Joe Treviso. Those guys were saying all they're going to do is put a spy on Justin. Make him throw, keep the run game down, just make Justin Fields throw.
Right.
But they're not going to let him scramble. They're going to keep him in the pocket, make him throw. That's what Belichick is going to do because Belichick is not stupid.
Right.
He's fucking
exactly
smart as shit. He may be a dick. But yeah, hold on. I didn't. Can you flash that back up there again?
Sure.
So you got the Patriots, who probably this is in Foxborough Monday Night Football. Dan Aguirre will tell you the Bears suck on Monday night. Then the next week you got the Cowboys, who have one of the best defenses in the NFL.
Oh my gosh!
The pass. You want to see like pressure on 46% of the snaps. You might see pressure on 80% of the snaps with Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence. But I mean, let's not kid ourselves. The Washington Commanders' defensive line is pretty fucking good.
Yeah,
I mean, you saw it last week. Jonathan Allen. I mean, he was just like he had no problem getting past Mustafa or Patrick or a double team. Didn't matter who you put. He was going to juke one of them, and just a little step and shove him out of the way. I was just like, what the hell? I'm kind of starting to think that Lucas Patrick isn't all that. I know he's at guard, and it's not really.
He sucks.
I don't think he's that good. I mean, it's like
maybe he doesn't suck at center, but as
Yeah.
a right guard or a left guard, he sucks.
Yeah, I'll tell you why he's there is that he knows Getsy's system and he can make the line calls.
Exactly.
He may not be that good,
Well
but
put.
he knows the systems. He can make the line calls. Then you got the Dolphins, man. I like our young defensive backs, but the Vikings, by all accounts and purposes, I watched that game, Vikings and Dolphins, and there wasn't any. They could not cover Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill.
Yep.
And when they tried to double him, Mike Gesicki was open.
Mhm.
And when Skylar Thompson left the game, that was it. Then the Vikings were able to take control of the game. But
I agree with Jordan Silvera on another point. He's in love. He has a man crush on Mike McDaniel, the head coach of the Dolphins. I do too. I thought he would have been a better choice other than Eberflus. And I'm not disparaging Eberflus. I think that he could do a good job eventually.
I agree,
But
Aldo.
Dable and McDaniel were choices that I would have preferred.
It's possible that we don't have the staff in place to develop a young quarterback like Justin Fields. It's possible. It's possible. I'm not gonna. I mean, I might have thought otherwise before the season. Say, hey, these guys are pretty good. The coaches seem to know what they're doing, but maybe not with a young quarterback. Because then you got the Lions, and I mean that's definitely a game we can win. It's the Lions, and then the Falcons have been pretty darn good. That's a good offense there. Their defense might not be good. Then you got the Jets, who are surprising. All those high first round picks coming home to roost on the Jets. Then of course we're home against the Packers, who always beat us anyways. And we got a bye after the bye. Come back in the Eagles, and then Christmas we get the Bills. Man, it's like 2 weeks in a row of like the two best teams in the NFL.
Mhm.
Without a doubt, those are the two best teams in the NFL. They'll probably be in the Super Bowl. And then week 17, you got the Lions again. We might salvage a victory there by playing the crappy Lions, and then the Vikings, who will probably win this division just by the early season victories. They're building a lead on the Packers.
Yep, indeed.
So that's it. I don't know where do you see a victory coming here, Although maybe the Lions.
Here's what I see: a top draft pick. That's what I see.
Yep.
And this whole issue with Justin Fields, and again, if you missed the start of the show, I'm a Justin Fields supporter. I really think that he could become a quality NFL quarterback. But the fact of the matter is that right now, he's not playing well. And look at this quote here from Benjamin St. Just. Don't take it from me. Don't take it from any of the Justin Fields naysayers or anyone else. Take it from a guy who has played against him. That's what it is. One read and he pulls it down and he's running. That's why we sent a lot of pressure and mixed the coverages from man to zone. We knew that once he doesn't see his first read, it's not open. He just runs. We didn't want to give him any time. It worked. That's Benjamin St. Just, a rookie cornerback, by the way, a rookie who I really wanted on the Chicago Bears, but nonetheless.
Yeah, he's on the Commanders?
Yeah, he was on the Commanders. He played against the Bears on Thursday, and he said that they knew that Justin Fields was a one-read quarterback. And on top of that, I didn't capture the soundbite, but Ron Rivera said the same thing. We knew what this guy was capable of doing. And the fact that he ran as well as he did against us, he basically, I'm paraphrasing here, we basically screwed up because we talked about that over and over again. So Bill Belichick right now, as he is game planning on this Monday night game against Justin Fields, he knows that Justin Fields is a one-read quarterback.
He'll take away the first read. That's a given.
Exactly.
He'll take away the first read.
What is Bill Belichick known for? Take away your strengths. Take away the strengths of the team. Yep. As Matt Eberflus said in today's press conference, make the team a left-handed team. Make them rely on things that they're not used to doing, that they're not capable of doing, they're not used to doing. Yep. And so that's what we're going to see on Monday night. And so what has to happen is that Justin Fields needs to make that evolutionary leap. Oh, fuck no, his offensive line. Oh, the receivers and so forth. I already showed you at the beginning of this show Kurt Warner's analysis of Justin Fields holding the ball too long. He's got to fucking
got to throw it. The Cutler had the same problem.
pull the trigger, let it go. That's an exact quote from Kurt Warner.
Yeah, Cutler had the same kind of problem too. He didn't want to throw guys, throw to a spot. Trubisky, same thing. A lot of quarterbacks have this problem. Kurt Warner was, first of all, Kurt Warner had a hell of an arm, and he was able to understand, really early that the window is very small in the NFL from where he played at Northern Iowa. And, he had to just trust that he's going to throw it. And that, I've seen quarterbacks make throws, zip it in there. I can't remember which game I was watching. Someone zipped a throw and the guy was right on him. And he threw it right in front, right into his chest, with the guy draped all over him. That's open in the NFL,
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, a lot of young quarterbacks don't get that right away. They just don't. Will we see Justin? That's up to him, man. It's up to him. But I mean, look at the natural talent of running. He's one of the fastest guys on the field when he's out there, man.
Mm-hmm.
But and he's tough. But is he going to get it? I don't know. Man,
Yeah.
maybe, like I said, maybe he doesn't have it. Maybe the coaches aren't the right coaches to get it.
That's the other thing. Let me underline also what Kurt Warner said, because Kurt Warner was just not critical of Justin Fields. He was critical of the coaching staff. He was critical of other players. He pointed out that here Justin Fields is doing everything correctly. He fades back, plants the back foot, fires the ball before the pressure gets to him, and the ball fucking hits the face mask of Dante Pettis. He doesn't make the catch.
Yep.
Here's another example. He's got trips left. Receivers are going to the middle of the field. None of them is open. The primary pass catcher was guarded well by the linebacker, but he's got no secondary choices because everybody was grouped together in the middle of the fucking field. That's on Luke Getsy. And I will add to that Kurt Warner was critical of Luke Getsy in the Packers playoff game. If you go back and look at Kurt Warner's evaluation of the Packers playoff game, and I asked Jordan to take a look at that and to comment on that, but Jordan chose not to. But the complaint that Kurt had was there's just an caveat here. Luke Getsy was just a quarterback coach, but he was complaining about that there was just a lot of things happening with the play designs from the Packers last year that didn't make any sense to Kurt Warner. So I'm just relying on a Super Bowl winning quarterback, Pro Football Hall of Fame quarterback, on what he's
one of the best to ever do it.
Thank you, brother.
Kurt Warner, man. One of the best, man. Yeah, I mean, I know you had J2Ks up there. It is a trust. Justin Fields has to trust that his arm is going to get the ball there, thrown to at timing. The timing has to be there, and he has to understand that what's open, it doesn't look like it's open, but it's open.
Right.
That's just the NFL. It's a higher level, and I know it says too soon to blame Fields or the coaches. That's true to a point. I mean, I think we can blame where we are, a little bit of blame where we are right now at this point. We're not saying it's the end all be all.
Thank you, brother. You and I are thinking exactly.
Yeah. I mean, we can like I said, Poles gets an F for the season.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a D, because he did draft a couple nice players. You gotta like Jaquan Brisker, and I mean,
Jaquan Brisker is going to get votes as the defensive rookie of the year.
Yeah, he's a good ball player. And then I think Kyler Gordon, I don't know. I think he's okay.
He's improving.
Yeah.
I mean, his last game,
he looks like he could be pretty good, but I mean,
he will be.
And then Velus Jones, he's been injured and he had the costly punt, and then you got Braxton Jones, who looks okay. Let's face it, he's a 5th round pick. Then what else we got? We got a bunch of late round picks who were injured or cut. You know, I mean, there wasn't a lot there. That all the 11 draft picks. I mean, name more than like 3 of them, right? That were any good. Aldo.
Yeah, I can't.
You know,
I can't.
I don't know. I mean, one of the guys, I think 2 of the offensive linemen got injured. The center from Illinois, and there's a
Kramer,
dude,
I believe.
Zachary Jones, I think his name was, or something like that. Zachary something, and he was I don't know, like San Diego State or something, or whatever. It's another small school like Southern Utah, which I think is where Braxton Jones is from. I think the other guy's name was Zach Jones. No relation, but another offensive lineman who I don't think, is he on the practice squad or is he on injured reserve? I don't know.
I don't know either.
But the Patriots seem to find guys, and Bailey Zappi's a 7th round pick. You know, I mean, he came from a passing school. Let's not kid ourselves. In Western Kentucky, slings the ball over. They do not run the ball. You know, they just throw the ball. You know,
Right.
same with he was at Houston Baptist before that, and all they do is throw the ball. You know, they'll throw the ball 60 times a game. Zach Thomas, yeah, San Diego State. So he's a tackle or guard or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, these are developmental draft picks. These are guys that they were not chosen with the expectation that they were going to help this team in 2022.
Yeah. I know some people say
even
Bailey
Braxton
Zappi was a 4th round pick. I think he's a 7th round pick.
Yeah,
if I'm
I think
not
so too.
I remember seeing a story about that, but I'd have to go back and I couldn't say it. But you know, at the end of the game, Dante Pettis was interfered with in the end zone. I can't believe that wasn't called. It was freaking obvious. It should have been 1st and goal on the 1. Game over Bears. And you know, I mean, Dan Aguirre's right. The refs calls. I'd say, man, it's not 50% Bears get calls, 50% they don't get the calls, because it's fucking lopsided against us. I swear to God, it was fucking lopsided against us.
Yep.
Ain't no lying. I mean, you can watch any Packers game, and Bakhtiari and whoever else is going to be holding a Bears guy, and the ref will be, you know, oh, look away. I didn't see it. You know, that's just wait. You know, I mean, yeah.
I agree.
We haven't spent money on the offensive line or draft picks. That's my main point.
And so one of the reasons we were all excited about, you know, Ryan Poles was just because he's a former offensive lineman, that he knew the importance of winning the line of scrimmage and so forth. But his actions speak louder than words. There's just not anything going on here.
It's the worst unit on the team.
It really
it's the worst unit on the team. Really, you know, I mean, that's why I was so mad after, you know, and the Bears state of affairs, that this dude, it's almost an unforgivable sin. Right. Because you look at the top 2 teams in the NFL, you've got the Bills and the Eagles, and both those teams are probably the 2 best offensive lines in football in the NFL, the Bills and the Eagles. I mean, if you watch the Eagles-Chiefs games, the Bills are able to run the ball on the Chiefs, you know, no problem. And the Eagles, I knew that was my best pick Sunday night. I knew that the Cowboys weren't. They have a good pass rush and some decent players on defense, but they were exposed, man. I didn't think it was going to be close. The Eagles have a tendency to kind of let teams back into it. We saw it when they played the Lions, but in the second quarter, man, the Eagles outscored teams like 80-0. It's like something like that, man. I was like, I had Eagles first half and Eagles full game, and to cash both those tickets. But the Eagles are definitely the best team in the NFC.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I posted on Twitter, you know, the Bears could become the Eagles next season. And there's not a lot of reason to believe that.
No, the chat room agrees with you.
It can happen. It can happen.
The chat room agrees with you. They said they'll start designing a playbook like Jalen Hurts has.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. That's the key to what I was trying to say, is that, you know, Jalen Hurts, a lot of people in the NFL fans and analysts thought that Jalen Hurts was a bust. I just want to go on record.
Yeah.
I hate to beat my own.
You liked Jalen Hurts too. Yeah, I know.
Like I love
Patrick Mahomes. You and I both. I would have drafted him number 1 overall. People
Thank you.
People were like, "You're fucking crazy."
You.
You know, we had the third overall pick. I would have taken Patrick Mahomes right there. You know, he came out of Texas Tech. You know, all he had to do was watch all the different arm angles, all the arm strength. The dude runs around like Fran Tarkenton out there.
Yes, you
like,
don't overlook a quarterback who can throw the ball in the air 99 yards.
He got a hell of a he can spin it, man. It's like I know. Plus, he had good escapability, and by all accounts, he's a dude that he looks like he's having so much fun out there.
Exactly.
You know,
the other
he
thing,
always looks like he's having fun.
Exactly.
He's a competitor. You know,
a great spirit. It comes from a bloodline of professional athletes.
Yep.
His father pitched with the Cubs. By the way, Tooch, I've started an exercise, and I'm not really finished with it, but I will be. Probably by the
men our age shouldn't exercise all.
Tell me about it. Tell me fucking about it. My back agrees.
Oh
with
my god,
But I started a thought exercise on what does this team look like in 2023 based on who is signed.
I love it.
There's over $100 million in cap space, but there's so many positions that are open for the Bears, and so. I looked at the Bears salary cap for 2023, and again, this is not complete. These are part of the results that I came up with. Look at the top where it says the green players are super set, white players are set, and the X players are not set. So there's nobody on the offense that we're super set on. At quarterback, you can't say that we're super set at that because the jury is still out on Justin Fields. The same thing with the entire the entire offensive line with the left guard, where we know we are not set at that position. At left tackle, let's just say that Braxton Jones is going to continue to develop and he will be the 2023 offensive tackle. Let's just say that Larry Borum will be the right tackle for this team. And let's just say that the right guard will be Tevin Jenkins. So those are the set positions. Darnell Mooney at the wide receiver set position. We don't have a left wide receiver or an X wide receiver. We don't have a slot wide receiver, and we're set at the running back position and could be super set if we sign David Montgomery. So for 2023, this team has no superstars, no super set players. And then on the defense, we don't have any superstar players, but we are a little bit better off with the exception of the defensive line. We've got guys signed at the left end and right end position and at the left tackle, nose tackle position, but those guys are not superstars. Those guys are not players you should count on to help you win Super Bowls. We don't have a 3-tech. We don't have a middle line.
And Poles did not draft a fucking 3 technique, the most important part of the defense.
Can you believe that?
I know.
I don't know. I don't understand.
He didn't draft offensive line. He didn't draft a 3 technique.
It boggles the mind, truly boggles the mind.
Yep.
And then at the linebacker position, we don't have a middle linebacker signed for next year. Nicholas Morrow signed only a 1-year contract. We don't have a strong side linebacker. I put a green super set mark with the anticipation that the Bears would at the very least franchise tag Roquan Smith. And then in the defensive backfield, Eddie Jackson is definitely super set. He's back to being the Eddie Jackson. And then I'm hoping that Jalen Johnson, Kyler Gordon are going to be super set players at cornerback, and that Jaquan Brisker is going to continue to develop and be a super set player at safety. But when I look at 2023, my God, Tooch, fucking Ryan Poles has a lot of work to do. I don't care how much money he's got. I don't care how many draft picks he's got. He's got a fucking lot of work to do.
I don't know about that, man. Jordan Silvero will debate you on this.
Jordan
guys there, man. We traded out of some places where we could have taken some guys. I don't know. Perpetually, the Bears have every season too many holes to fill. Aldo, fucking
Well, and Cliff is saying add 8 green players from the draft. Well, we've only got 6 draft picks right now, so I don't know how you add 8 green players from the draft. And
I know how we can get some more.
Well, absolutely.
I know how we can get some more. Robert Quinn.
Hey, as difficult
trading away some.
Let's have this discussion.
I made a list, Aldo.
Okay, go ahead.
My notepad. Robert Quinn is an obvious choice.
Got to move him before the trade deadline.
Got to move him before the trade line, which I think is approaching quickly.
Yeah, Monday or Tuesday, November 2nd.
Oh, so we might have some extra stuff to talk about at that barroom party. We'll be talking about. Look at all the compensation. I mean, we probably won't get much for him, but undoubtedly by that time, there's going to be some teams who will be like, you know what, we could add a pass rusher and make some noise in the playoffs, maybe get to the Super Bowl with a player like Robert Quinn. Added. Look what happened when the Bills added Von Miller before the season, put him opposite Greg Rousseau. I mean, if you watch the Chiefs and Bills, man, I know people are saying, well, Patrick Mahomes made some dumb decisions and stuff, but he did have a lot of guys in his face, including one of the defensive tackles. His name escapes me, and Tre'Davious White covered his best receiver. But I mean, the Bills' defense is pretty darn good, man. So Robert Quinn is an obvious candidate. You think about like teams like, I mean. What do you
think about J2K's question here? Are you okay with the 6th round pick for Quinn?
I would say no, because I think you could probably get a 5th or 4th.
See, the thing is that I was surprised that we got so little for Khalil Mack.
Yeah.
And Quinn is not playing well this season.
What did we get for Mack? I can't remember.
We got a first round and a 4th round, I believe.
A 2nd round and 4th round, right?
No, it was a 4th. If I remember correctly.
A 2nd and 4th?
Yeah.
Was one of them was turned into
no, it was a 2nd rounder, Brisker, Jaquan Brisker.
Turned into Brisker. That was Khalil Mack, right?
Right. Okay. That was part of the Khalil Mack trade, correct.
Right.
Well,
so
I don't think, I was hoping that we could get something like Von Miller got for the Broncos, which was a 2nd and a 3rd, but the way Quinn is playing is just not going to happen.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. You're probably only going to get a 4th or a 5th. I don't think you could get a 2nd for Robert Quinn, Juan. But I mean, I would love it. But 2nd and 6th that's what we got for Mack. Okay, that's what they're saying.
Yeah,
we got a 2nd and a 6th round pick, which 2nd turned into Jaquan Brisker, I think, right?
Right, which was Brisker, and the 6th. I'm not sure who that turned out for, or I'm actually thinking it was a 2023 6th round.
Right.
Maybe not, but in any case, the trade value for Robert Quinn is not going to be very high. It's not going to be. So who else do you have on your list?
Some places that of playoff teams that are desperate need of pass rush are the Rams, the Titans, and the Ravens.
Right.
Whose defenses have slipped. Those are some teams I think you could get. But I think maybe a 4th round pick next year and a 5th round pick, 2024, something like that, or 6th round pick, 2024, maybe something like that. We'd have to be happy with. Another guy, I hate to say it, I know you're like he's playing good, but I mean Eddie Jackson could be a guy that we could get some value for, Aldo. I mean, I don't know. He's age 28. He's not really a great tackle. I know he's fast. Makes a big splash plays and stuff.
I truly believe, Tooch, that we could get a 2nd round draft pick.
I might be able to get something for Eddie Jackson. I know I know the chat room's probably going to kill me for this because they've come to love Eddie Jackson again. Hey, he's back.
Yeah.
It's our guy. It's Bojack, right?
I agree.
But look, man, I don't think Eddie Jackson's going to make a difference on this team this year. For us to get, to 6.5 wins, which is what initially we had thought, which is, where Vegas had it pegged, and fucking Ross Tucker said we wouldn't make 3 wins. That fucker might be right, but J2K says don't trade Bojack.
Well,
I'm throwing him out there. I'm not saying we're going to trade him.
No, exactly.
This is where the value lies.
Right. And trust me, the Bears are having these very same discussions.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Right.
They talked about it in this long week between the Commanders and the Patriots.
Absolutely.
They're evaluating every player and saying, hey, what can we get for Eddie Jackson? I guarantee you they're fucking saying that. And of course you got to think about Roquan, who doesn't have a contract after this year. You know, you have to franchise him. You know, I know he's the NFL's leading tackle or whatever, but I mean, he's always been a guy who has, you know, he doesn't really fight through blocks. He kind of runs around blocks and stuff, you know. I love Roquan too, but I mean, I'm just looking at where value is. You know, we have to start getting guys, you know, into getting younger players into there, which is what Poles. I think you and I both think that was what Poles wants to do is acquire and play younger players. You know.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. And again, as part of this exercise, and I don't want to reveal too much because it's not ready for the way I want to present things, but I did put together this graphic to show what the value is of trading Eddie Jackson. I'm waiting for it to load. Here it is. It's loaded. Let's lose that comment on the screen. Oh, it's all right.
Oh, I just said it too.
Eddie Jackson has got a cap hit in 2023 of 17 million, a little over 17 million next year. So if you trade him, you're going to retrieve $7.5 million. So there still will be $10 million cap hit, but you will have $7.5 million to add to younger players to support what you're trying to do in this rebuild, which to me now is looking more like a 3-year rebuild as opposed to a 2-year rebuild.
It's kind of like a tear down.
It really is.
Can I just say I love these graphics? It's like you knew what we were going to talk about. I had no idea. I'm just like this thought, you know, it was like thoughts that I was, you know, had in my head. Then all of a sudden there's already a fucking graphic for it.
That's what I do all day. I watch porn and do football graphics. My wife is saying, what are you doing? Are you watching porn or doing graphics? Because I need you to throw the garbage out.
Given that I spend so much time on Pornhub, it's only appropriate that I have a porn mustache.
One of my greatest 100 proofs. It's true, though. I mean, I sit around thinking about this stuff, and then I want to visualize it for our audience. It's a curse and a cure for my anxiety.
I mean, the idea, trust me, Barflies, the idea of trading away 3 of our best defensive players and then watching some Bears football, it ain't in my book of top things I want to do.
Yeah, it might make your life easier as a handicapper, right?
Well, yeah, it might make a few bets down the road easier, but yeah, shit. I mean, well, I mean, I'm just saying, like, look, this is where we are, you know?
Yeah.
You know, Aldo and I have been Bears fans, Aldo since the 60s and Tooch from the 70s.
Exactly.
It's like we've seen a lot of this movie before.
Yep. You know? So, Tooch, on your trade list, was Roquan on there? I'm assuming, of course.
Yeah, Roquan Smith. Yep. Some places like where he could go. Atlanta could use some help. They've got their offense is looking pretty darn good, man, with Arthur Smith as coach, and Cleveland, who has a decent offense, but their defense is kind of slipped. But they have a good defensive line. They could use some linebackers. And maybe the Patriots, you know, could use Roquan Smith. You know, that's a few teams that come to mind right off the bat. You know, imagine the Patriots adding to their defense, adding Roquan to that defense.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know. I hate to say this because the team still has an opportunity to win the wild card because the NFC is fucking awful. I mean, they even have a
There's
chance.
one good team.
Exactly.
That's it.
They even have a chance to win the NFC North title. I mean, that's how bad this fucking NFC is. So you hate to think about, you know, trading away assets and so forth that could help you get through. And perhaps I have seen it before where teams that were just really poor, all of a sudden things fucking click. And all of a sudden these ragamuffin, you know, players start to play better and so forth. So it could happen. But is this 2022 version of the Chicago Bears as good as the Kansas City Chiefs, the Buffalo Bills? Who's the one team that you had in the NFC that you said was good? I thought it was the Eagles, right?
Yeah. And then after that, I think I'd say the Vikings are the next best team, and that ain't saying much.
Right. I would say actually the Cowboys, because
the
of
Cowboys, maybe they have a decent
defense.
Yeah, I mean, that a Cowboys Vikings game would be a pretty good matchup. You know,
I agree.
The Vikings defense has not showed what it's capable of. I think that's kind of why people are underrating them. But when you have players like Zadarius Smith and Danielle Hunter rushing, their pass rush for whatever reason has not come around. But when it does, the Vikings are going to be a little dangerous, man. I hope it's not against the Bears when they find their pass rush.
But, right. I mean, it doesn't matter because the Vikings played the Bears in the 17th game. But I do agree with you, Tooch, that the Vikings are capable of being one of the best, if not the best, NFC team. Eagles, first and foremost, number one. And I do agree Vikings and Cowboys are closely matched for number two.
I would throw the Packers in there. I think they're just in a little bit of a slump. They still have some talent. I mean, who else is there besides the Packers? The Rams, the Buccaneers, I guess?
49ers.
Yeah. I mean, the 49ers, I guess the 49ers have a great defense, and if the offense comes around, that I'd agree with you on the 49ers. It's tough to rank the NFC right now, you know?
It really is.
Other than the Eagles.
It really is, and you would know better than anybody else as a
it's very tough
professional handicapper.
I had the Niners first half, and you know the Falcons punched him in the mouth, you know, but they arguably they had like 3 or 4 guys out of the game from their defensive line. That affected their defense, you know. So, but yeah, they're destroyed with injuries, like Juan says.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean,
I've never seen Juan here in the chat room. I don't know if this is your first appearance, Juan, but
I love the name though. One Upper.
One Upper. I love it.
One Upper, yeah.
Welcome, Juan.
Yeah.
You're one of a kind.
But yeah, then you look at the AFC, and it's a little easier to rank teams in there, you know, because you've got the Bills and Chiefs, arguably the 2 best teams, you know, and they just played. I mean, that game could have gone either way. You know, it was a great game, and they'll probably be playing each other in the AFC Championship. You know, schedule works out, you know, as it is. Both those teams are playing for the AFC Championship. That'll be a pretty darn good game. Other than that, though, I mean, there's not a lot of great AFC teams either. You know, I was talking about this with I forget who I was talking with. I think it was Anthony. We're talking about how the collective bargaining has kind of watered down the quality of NFL football for the most part, because the owners and players negotiated to have 1 extra game and 1 less preseason game. And then we've had a negotiation for less full contact practices, less later start time for training camps, less practice time, you know, for the players and things like that. And that kind of, I mean, this season at least, it seems like you watched the game last night with the Broncos and Chargers.
Oh yeah,
it was like, man, it was ugly. Like, you know, this 2 teams, like the Chargers have a terrible defense and a really good offense, and the Broncos are the exact opposite. They have a pretty damn good defense and a horrible offense. A lot of talent on offense. I thought, like, sure, Russ Wilson, he could put up some points on that crappy Chargers defense, and Justin Herbert should be able to put some points up at home, and they didn't. Man, it was like a 19-16 overtime game with like nobody wanting to score a touchdown. You know, freaking DraftKings had a bet from -800 to +100. Justin Herbert over a half a touchdown pass. So 1.
I took that fucking.
I did too. I'm like, all right. Normally I never take those bets because they're always like they're designed to fail, you know. But I'm like, he's gonna throw 1 fucking touchdown.
Oh my god!
And he didn't throw a single fucking It was just like incomplete pass, incomplete pass, incomplete pass.
Tooch, I hate to say this, but I'm so glad we died together on that.
Well, I mean, it's like $25 maximum bet, so you figure,
I bet
$25
$10
bucks.
on it. Yeah,
I
bet $10
no,
on it, so-
no, it was like I got my money back today with Aaron Savali under 3.5 strikeouts.
Good for you.
So I was like,
Good for you.
Aaron Savali wasn't going to pitch more than 3 innings, and he's not a strikeout pitcher. That was like fucking easy money, you know. I don't know why they made a mistake there, and I got my money back. But
I'm telling you, man, this fucking betting shit is driving me nuts.
Yeah.
I'm so glad I have you and Anthony and
Sean Higgs
and Sean Higgs on Saturdays on the weekend sports betting tips. You guys are really fucking fantastic. If you have
it's a lot of fun, man, those two guys.
I mean, even if you're not a bettor, just listen to these guys talk about football and talk about the game of handicapping and so forth. It's fascinating. It's a 30-minute.
Oh man, I got some good stuff for next Saturday too.
These
about
guys are good. These guys
bankroll, and wait till we start talking college basketball. If you like college basketball, man, you gotta tune in. Fucking, I love college basketball, man. It's one of my favorite times of year when college basketball comes around. I love the purity of college basketball because it's not like the NBA where guys are just like, you know what? I know I'm already making, $6 million a season. I think I'm gonna sit this game out, But the college kids don't ever say that, They want to be out there and try and make, playing like you can't believe it. So that's why I love college basketball, and it seems a little easier to handicap for me as well.
For the most part, college football and college basketball, you've got guys who are playing for the heart, playing from the heart, and playing for a school. There's been exceptions where players have said, I'm going to make a business decision and I'll play in this bowl game or what have you. But for the most part, one of the great things about college football and basketball is the team spirit, and it's just fantastic, and it's a great way to wager as well. One of the things that I'm really, really fucking looking forward to on this Saturday, November 5th, when we all get together, is there's going to be tons of college football on the screens, and Tooch will be there.
Yeah,
he just told me he's going to be there, and
I gotta put my bets in the day before, though.
Well, you could do it that morning.
Yeah.
Why not?
No, because I can only bet when I'm in the state of Iowa.
Oh, that's right.
Yep.
So
unless I get an offshore book, I haven't made Anthony's always bugging me. You got to get an offshore account. You can bet from anywhere. It's like, yeah, maybe. But I mean, I love the DraftKings like power boosts and stuff. That's how, I can kind of make a little extra, and it's not pay as much juice. But I'll probably drive, to Davenport and then leave in the morning and get there, early. Get there at noon,
Well,
Davenport has a Portillo's.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's as close to a Portillo's. That's the closest Portillo's to me is Davenport, Iowa.
Oh my God.
I haven't had Portillo's in quite a long time. So
you grab a couple of hot dogs.
I'm going to grab a hot dog and an Italian beef probably.
The second best hot dogs in the Chicago area are from Portillo's, and the number one are what's the name of the place? Jude.
Is that Gene and Jude's?
Gene and Jude's.
Yeah.
On River Road in
River
Chicago.
Road, yep.
The absolute best. You bite into those fuckers and you hear that cracking noise. It's got this peppery taste to it. It's just fantastic. They roll each hot dog with greasy fucking fries. It is the fucking best hot dog you can get in Chicago, in my opinion.
Yeah.
They're just a great place. Chicago's a great place to get hot dogs.
Yeah. Yep.
Portillo's is up there.
I love the picture of the original Portillo's hot dog stand.
Oh,
in Villa Park. It was just like a wagon, like a horse-drawn cart.
Exactly. So we could talk about that and a lot of other things.
If barflies are coming in, we'll have to maybe make a trip to some of these spots.
Yeah, that would be fucking fantastic. That would be fucking fantastic. So circle it on your calendar. All you barflies that are listening on Saturday, November 5th. Mike North has told me he will be there. Tooch has told me he will be there. Of course,
I will be there. I already started looking at hotels.
Yeah, we need you guys to be there just to reaffirm the fact that we're doing this for a fucking good reason.
I saw what is it? A hotel for $77 a night. It was a nice one too. It was like a Windham Garden or something like that on Arlington
The
Heights
Wyndham
Road.
hotels are a great bargain.
Yeah,
yeah, fucking A.
Breakfast included. So
Look at you.
The girls can make waffles.
Oh, I love it.
The waffle machine, waffle maker.
All right, Tooch, let's get out of here.
Yeah.
What do you want
I
to
forgot to ask you about whether you thought about the quality of the NFL since the collective bargaining agreement, whether play had been a little bit watered down, You know
what? I got to tell you, I think that we are in a period where we're seeing football not at its best. And that happened before in my 6 decades of watching professional football.
Yeah.
We would go into these periods. And right now we're seeing, because of the collective bargaining, because of a lot of different issues, we're seeing watered down football.
Yeah,
we're seeing
exactly.
a lot of mediocrity. We're seeing, they call it parity. I call it mediocrity.
Yeah.
There's only 4 or 5 really good NFL teams. The rest are awful fucking football teams. And unfortunately, I got to put the Chicago Bears into that. It's not a good time to be an NFL fan. If you're coming here from another planet and you want to watch some NFL football, I would say, hey, can you rewind and go back to 1985 and see the Chicago Bears and some of the great football from that era? Right now, it's not a good time. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you don't have to convince me. I'm like, we're right on the same page, man.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about trading away Eddie Jackson and Roquan Smith.
Oh my God,
that's where we are.
Yeah,
and you and I can only pinpoint 3 good teams in the NFL, maybe like a few other that are kind of pretty good. Exactly. And then after that, it's a bunch of garbage.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
It's it's a disappointment. I mean, I guess I was struck by how disappointing the season is. You look at teams like Carolina; they've already thrown in the towel, fired their coach. They traded away Robbie Anderson, as pretty good wide receiver who arguably temperamental, but talking about trading away Christian McCaffrey. I never thought I'd hear that. I mean,
oh my gosh, unbelievable.
He's an amazing player, but that's where Carolina's at. I mean, teams are kind of the propensity is to play for next season nowadays, Aldo.
St. Omni's, by the way, reminds us that you can rent hotels.
He had to go there. He had to go there. I didn't want to say anything.
St. Omni has lived a wonderful, fulfilled life. So comparing some of that wisdom.
I was I know you're probably, and the Smashing Pumpkins are playing and stuff, and Aldo hasn't made up his mind, but I was like, Take Mrs. Tooch. Mida's from the Philippines. She's never seen a rock concert.
Really?
I was like, I think she might be blown away. I wonder what she would think of like seeing a rock concert.
Here's the thing: is Mr. Shorty bought 3 tickets to that concert, several rows behind the ones that Tooch, that Dan bought, but. I don't know. Maybe we should all get on a conference call and talk about, how we could make.
I'd have to stay with the kids. I love the Smashing Pumpkins. I saw the Smashing Pumpkins when they were nothing. I saw them at the Lounge Acts. You ever heard of Lounge Acts?
No,
it was on Lincoln Avenue around Fullerton, and maybe Diversity, somewhere around there. But it was like Lounge and then AX for like it was a guitar.
Sounds familiar, but I've never been there.
And they were number 2 on the bill. They were, the headliner was a band called Bigfoot Sex Slave. they were awful. But, I kind of went there because I'd heard Smashing Pumpkins was kind of cool, and I went there and I was like, Billy Corrigan there. He was like, I stood probably 10 feet from Billy. And he had his little pedal, and I was like, these guys aren't that good.
Mm-hmm.
Then later on they got their, they're better. They figured it out and stuff and became, put out some really great albums, man. It was be something to see him. I saw him again years later, I think, with the Chili Peppers and Nirvana. That was a great show.
What? I really would love to see this concert. I'm a big Smashing Pumpkins fan.
Yeah.
I like some of the stuff that Jane's Addiction has done, but it's like,
is that who else is playing, right? Jane's Addiction?
They're the opening act.
I've seen them when they were nobody too, man. In college. I was in college and they, it was a big ballroom at the top of this like health club in Milwaukee where I went to college.
Mhm.
And before and after the show, we were playing frisbee in there, man. It was like fucking throwing that Jane's Addiction come out. I think the album was called Nothing Shocking.
Mhm.
You know, it was one their breakout album, you know, and I was right in front of the stage for that one too.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
You know, but the part of the thing that, you know, I got to consider is I'm going to be hosting this event earlier that day. And then I'm going to be going to the Bears game the next day. You know, I'm an old fucking fuck, man.
Yeah, I know.
So, you
You're
know,
just
my wife was telling me, I don't think you should go. You're going to be fucking wasted the entire week and
Yeah.
stuff. So
Yeah.
all I want to do right now is go to that Bears Dolphins game and hope and pray that we witness a victory, but also be a really good host for this event that
Yeah.
we're holding.
Can't wait.
On November 5th. It's going to be
it's kind of hard keeping the secret that when you get to be all those in my age, that you're hunting for nap spots in the afternoon and shit, and that's like pleasure.
That's right. Mike North called me the other day mid-afternoon, and when I woke up, I said, "Oh, Mike North called 2 hours ago."
Right? You're just like, man, when can I fit that nap in?
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, the Eagle Ballroom, man. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
who was.
And I
Yeah.
agree with Cliff that
There it is, man.
good drugs will keep you up.
Yep, the Eagles Club.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was the
you know
ballroom.
what? You know, too many good drugs can also be a problem, Cliff, as I've learned.
Who was that? Was that Mo? Yeah, it was Mo Bierman. Yeah,
You catch on
he
that?
must know. He must know his way around Milwaukee.
Oh,
Is he from Milwaukee?
I don't know. Mo Bierman, where are you from? And are you going to attend our event on Saturday, November?
Is Aldo? You ever been up the Milwaukee way?
I've spent a lot of great times in Milwaukee. Oh
Yeah,
my
great
God,
town.
a lot of great times.
Yeah,
Let me tell you a real quick, funny story.
I got a
went
story. I
there-
got a funny story for you too. Go
Okay,
ahead.
I went there I was 19 years old, and there was a mime festival happening in Milwaukee. I was hired to videotape it and so forth. And that night, I ended up fucking a mime.
Damn! Wow. It was a female, right?
I can't tell to this day. I'm not sure.
I went to school at Marquette, you know, and it was kind of on the near west side of the city. And I used to hang out with a bunch of my classmates, and I think like 4 of them had rented a house around 24th and Kilbourne, and it was called the Corey House because of all the pot. They used to call pot. It was like code name was Corey for weed, so it was called the Corey House. You could go there and buy some weed, you know. It was like, and they would have these great parties. You know, I would go out with some of the guys who want to, you know, drive, pick up the keg, throw it in the back of my van, and bring it back to the party for the weekend and stuff. And Jeffrey Dahmer was at one of our parties back then because he was doing his thing when I was going to college there. And some of my friends had to kick him out because he was too fucking weird. So, like later on, they were like, you know, that was the dude that killed all those people. You know, I was like,
Oh my
damn,
God.
that's weird, man. But yeah, he came to one of the parties, just wandered in,
That
you know,
is wild.
probably looking for young men. You know, now that you
Exactly.
can watch the Netflix series, you know.
That's been really popular.
Yeah, very popular. Yeah.
Jeffrey Dahmer series. By the
Yeah.
way, did you ever hear my story about John Wayne Gacy chasing?
No.
I was.
We've both been chased by serial killers. Aldo.
Yes, yeah, exactly. 17 years old. I walked. I didn't have a car at the time. I walked my girlfriend home, and then as I'm walking back home down North Avenue, somebody in a Cadillac pulls up and stops in the middle of the streets and just stares at me.
Damn.
And then he pulls off, and I'm thinking, okay, what am I gonna do? He makes a fucking U-turn, and when he made that U-turn, I knew I had to fucking run. So I go down. I go down. It was Maplewood Avenue, North Avenue, Maplewood Avenue, and there's an alley parallel to North Avenue, and I'm looking. And there he is. He's fucking searching for me. Where are you, fucker? Where are
Is
you?
he wearing the clown suit?
He was not wearing the clown suit. And of course, at the time,
he lived in Norwich.
Right. Well, at the time, I didn't know it was John Wayne Gacy. Nobody knew that John Wayne Gacy was a serial killer at the time, or who he was, or whatever. And so years later, as I'm watching a documentary, and they detailed what car he drove, where he was working. He was working at doing some construction work on Rush Street near North Avenue. I just put it together. That motherfucker that chased me that night was John Wayne Gacy on a stack of Bibles. That was the same fucking guy.
Because a lot of my relatives lived in Norwich and Harwood Heights, and kind of Little Italy, Harlem Avenue over there. A lot of Santucci's lived over there. It's like fucking you can't throw a stone without hitting the Santucci over there. It's a Harwood Heights, Norwich, and Little Italy, Harlem Avenue over there. But yeah.
Swanky's laughing at me, and I'm like, Swanky, I could have been fucked in the ass and killed. What are you laughing at?
Did you ever visit the Hip back in the day, Harlem Irving?
Oh my gosh, Harlem Irving Plaza, of course. My wife grew up around there too.
Yeah, okay, so that's like Norwich, Harwood Heights, right?
Oh there, my gosh, and I went to so many movies at the Norwich Theater. It was,
yep, me too.
So much fucking fun to go there in a movie theater, and you're fucking rocking on chairs back then and drinking beer. We were always sneaking beer and wine and what have you.
Yeah, it was like Foster Avenue in Harlem, I think, right?
Yes, exactly, right in that area there. So great fucking fun. But it's being chased by John Wayne Gacy as a 17.
Did you catch up on Hot D? House of the Dragon?
Oh,
the last episode was the fucking best episode, man. It was so fucking good.
I cannot,
the ending was killer, dude.
I cannot put it any better than you just did, too. That was fucking fantastic.
Yeah, it was great, man. It was like an hour and a half long, too. But it was like, you're always like, oh, shit, what's going to happen,
Yes. And as good as any of the Game of Thrones episode.
Yeah,
really
for sure.
Fucking good. Really.
For sure. I told my wife, I'm like, look, the second to last episode is usually the best one. Like the last episode really isn't that good. It's like usually like a denouement. It's like, kind of ramping down for next season, like you gotta watch this one,
Yes. Very, very well put, Tooch. You're absolutely right. Usually, and I didn't anticipate that going in because I didn't think this was the next to last episode, but it really was a tremendous episode. And Dan Aguirre, who will not watch Game of Thrones or House of Dragons just simply because of the period that they're in. I
fantasy.
Really
he doesn't like fantasy.
He doesn't like that. I really wish he would consider,
unless it involves big hairy bushes.
Exactly.
Right.
Something he fantasizes about every night. But I really do wish he would reconsider because it's the storylines transcend the period. I think we talked about this last week. It's like the mafia. It's like, family drama. It's like anything else. It is so fucking well done.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, it's great. And I forgot what else I watched the Halloween Ends that came out on Peacock.
What'd you think?
I thought it wasn't as good as the previous one, but I love the ideas that they were throwing at us, with because I thought the storyline was really good. I don't know if they pulled it off quite, as good as it could have been, with the story of the young kid, who's got this darknessism because of an accident that happened when he was babysitting, all of that. And then, the Michael Myers legend and the ending of finally putting everything to rest and stuff, which, I can't say I didn't like the movie because I watched it entirely through, but I don't think it was as scary as the previous one. Maybe that's just me. But.
Oh, Bierman is asking that he'll watch House of Dragons, but
you don't have to watch Game of Thrones.
I agree.
Yeah,
I 100% agree. In fact, it's a prequel, Mo.
Yeah.
So in terms of chronological storytelling, it doesn't matter. Swanky says, "Oh no, Aldo, I was laughing earlier when you said you were fucking something like a nun." You said, I've got a sordid back.
I like that last episode of House of the Dragon, man. The Hightower family, they really made their move. It's like, it was like, oh, what did you say on your deathbed? I should be, and he was talking about, Aegon the Conqueror, who was years before, not talking about his son, the jerk off, the lush, the one who didn't want to be king, the oldest of his sons, but, the second son with the eye patch is more of a badass. It's like you lose your eye, will do that to you.
Yep.
Right.
I've got a movie that I'm going to recommend with some caveats. This is a movie you've all seen before. If you've seen Independence Day, if you've seen any science fiction movie, Moonfall is an exact replica of these movies. And by the way, one of the stars on it is the guy who was in Game of Thrones.
Yeah, he was excellent.
Yeah, he was. You saw the movie?
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, I thought it was good.
I enjoyed it. Yeah, it was good.
My wife and I saw this, and I told her, well, let's not have high expectations for this. And we didn't, but we enjoyed the fuck out of this movie. It was fun.
Halle Berry, always good to look at, right?
Oh my gosh. Is it possible that a woman her age
almost
looks
60
as beautiful as she does?
Man, I don't know how. I don't know how.
My wife says it's because African American women don't age well. I'm like, oh, I've seen some wrinkles on some African American women. She goes, not the Halle Berry type of African American women. I go, okay, whatever. She looks fucking hot, I'll tell you that. And she is really hot, and the movie is pretty damn good.
Stephen Me hates everything. It's got to be like fucking. To watch a movie that Stephen Me enjoys, you have to have like a degree in physics.
Yeah, I guess so. That must be it.
Physics and fucking calculus, and then
come on, Stephen. If you're gonna be fucking, jerking off while watching a movie, Moonfall isn't good. I'm not saying it's fucking Ingmar Bergman or Stanley Kubrick or any of the master filmmakers, but it's good escapist popcorn film.
You can like a movie that's just a movie that's for fun. Aldo and I will let you know when it's a fucking classic, dude.
Exactly. Exactly. No, it was a diversion. My wife and I sat down to watch a movie, and she goes, I don't want to watch anything deep. And I said, okay, I think I know the right movie. I played Moonfall, and within 5-10 minutes, she was hooked. We do at our house, we do the 10-minute test. If the movie doesn't grab you in 10 minutes,
my wife and I do the same thing. We ain't got time. We're old.
Exactly. That's the way to do it. That's the way to go. I mean,
guilty pleasures, Matthew. Thank you.
Well, exactly. Well put.
If there's some sex in it and a couple tits, even better, right? Exactly. I do have a show that I think you and your wife will like, though.
Okay.
It stars Charlie Hunnam. Do you know who Charlie Hunnam is?
Yeah, from
Sons of Anarchy.
Sons of Anarchy, yeah.
Right, and it's called Shantaram. It's really good, man. It's on Apple TV, and it's a series. I think there's 8, maybe 10 episodes, and it's about a dude who he was in prison in Australia, and he had been doing drugs and robbing, and apparently, as you learn, told through flashbacks, that a police officer was killed in one of the things where he was arrested. He didn't give up the other people involved in the crime. He did his time. He ends up escaping from the prison in the first episode. I mean, I'm not spoiling anything. He flees the country. His father and his mother are separated. His dad's like a university professor, and gives him some money. He goes to India, in Bombay, and falls in with this crowd of expatriates. And, of course, it's kind of more of the same there, where the police are corrupt, people are corrupt. And I'm enjoying it so far, man. It's good. He's posing as a New Zealand citizen, with a fake identity and stuff. And he worked as an ambulance driver, and knows some stuff about helping people who are trauma, injuries and stuff. But it's really good, man. I'm enjoying it so far. It's kind of has that crime element, and he's on the run. There's some hot chicks. It takes place in India, and there's a guy who meets him at the airport, an Indian dude. His name is Prabhu. He's really funny.
What's the name of this again?
It's called Shantaram. It's on Apple. It's supposedly their next big TV show. My wife and I were like, there's nothing else, and we were like, this is really good, man. It's about it's high quality, like a movie. It's a TV show, but it's as high quality as a feature film.
Yeah, right.
Each episode,
which is what you want. Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. So,
So,
yeah, I
enjoying
will
it.
definitely look for that.
So
And I got
far.
one more for you before we get out of here.
Mhm.
And I'm actually not recommending it. I saw a movie by the name of X, and of course, any
Yeah.
feature film that is about pornography, I want
Yeah.
to. Yeah.
I've heard about it. Yes.
Yeah, I was disappointed, and
Okay.
it's basically the premise is that 6 people get together. This is back in 1970s, is the era that the video cassette business is taking over the porn business, and so that guy on the right there on the screen, the guy with the cowboy hat, he says, porno is going to be huge. We're going to make millions. And so they rent a farm to shoot a porno movie in. But unfortunately, the inhabitants of this farm are one older guy who likes to carry around a shotgun, and his wife, who is equally the same age, but she's a horny bitch and wants these pornographers to fuck the shit out of her. And if they don't, she's going to rule the wrath of God on them. So it is worth watching because there's some very good performances on this in this film. Some young actors and some veteran actors. So from that standpoint, it is kind of a good goof of a movie. But overall, there was just so many implausibilities in the film and so many tropes from the horror movie genre that I felt like, this could have been a hell of a lot better. But I'll tell you one thing: the critics love this movie for some reason.
I think Dan Aguirre mentioned this movie to me. I think.
Did he? I not heard him talk about it. I was disappointed with it, but maybe you guys will like it. So it is what it is. It's called X. I saw it on Showtime, and there are some good parts.
On Showtime, okay.
Yeah,
I do have Showtime.
Yeah, are some good things about it. So buyer beware, is what I say.
Nice.
All right, Tooch.
Any
last words that you have before we head out of here?
I hope to see the Barflies, man, coming in for the get together on November 5th. I think, is it 5th?
November 5th, Saturday, November 5th.
Yeah, and then the next day the Bears play the Dolphins.
That's right. That's right.
So noon at Soldier Field.
Mm-hmm. We'll have a lot more information on that over the next few days. All you have to do is follow us on Twitter at Barroom Network, or go to Facebook, Barroom Network, or just subscribe to our YouTube channel. All of our shows in the coming days will have a commercial with all the details.
Nice.
And you can always reach out to me, Aldo at Barroom Network, if you want some more information. I'll be happy to interact with you to get you, hopefully get you out there so that we can meet you and have some laughs and share a beer.
Yeah, that'll be fun, man. And don't forget to check out all the great shows here, man. Got Fantasy Football Goon, which I filled in for Joe Mandel on Sunday.
I hope you become a regular on that show, Tooch, because you're so fucking good on that, and you love fantasy football.
Yeah. Joe and Adam are really good, and I love Adam's accent. He's kind of like an Aaron Current,
Yes.
Me and him will talk about Oklahoma. I went to Oklahoma a couple of years ago. Just hung out passing through, hung out for a day or two down there, and he and I have a good little chat stuff. And he lives like about 30 minutes from where I was staying.
Oh wow! Look at that.
Had
Small
a good chat. And then we got weekend sports betting tips with Anthony and Sean and me. We'll be talking all of the college football action this weekend, man, answering all the questions.
Right.
And then to Barfly tailgate, and after the Bears on Monday night, I don't know, all those will have the after show.
Yeah, we will have Bear football right after the show, and during halftime, we'll give our halftime report. So we've got some great programming on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday next week. Make sure you stay on tap. But really, what I want everyone to do is to tune in to the weekend sports betting tips with Coach and his two guys, because really, it's a 30-minute show, and you will be so thoroughly entertained by these guys. They do a fucking fantastic.
If I know like Anthony and Sean will give you a play that they. Unfortunately, there hasn't been a game where I know that the team's going to win. But yesterday I had 2 games where I knew that the teams are going to win. One was the New York Rangers over the Anaheim Ducks. I knew that was a winner. You know, so placed a decent sized bet on. And then my soccer team in the Spanish league, Villarreal, I knew that was a winner against the team that they played. I knew that they weren't going to lose. They're at home. You know, they've been on a roll. And knew that game. And then after that, I was like, I had no fucking idea. You know, it's like I outthink myself all the time, you know, and Anthony and Sean and I talk about it all the time about how, you can't, if you listen to someone like Sean, he'll tell you, look, man, look at where all the money's going and the line's not moving or the line's going the wrong way. Then you know pretty much where to place your bet. And Anthony and I sometimes say, man, and I wish I didn't want to ask Ben. Was that his name, Ben?
Yeah.
Like, how often do the refs get a call from the Vegas guys upstairs? Hey, Go Public.
I was waiting for you to ask that
Go
question.
Public got like a 10 million on it, you know, and stuff. I know. I should have asked him, but I didn't think he would like that.
Probably not, but it would have been nice.
But yeah, sometimes you think all the money's in one place. And like all the money was on Alabama, man. You had to take Tennessee, you know.
Exactly. I won a few bucks on that one.
Yeah. Yeah. Anthony, that was his free play, man. He was like, yeah, play Tennessee plus 9.5.
Oh,
you know,
gosh. I was actually at the gambling casino in Rosemont watching that game as my wife was hitting the tables and so forth. And I'm watching that Alabama-Tennessee game, and I'm saying, man, I'm going to win some money.
And Tennessee didn't even have Cedric Tillman in that game.
Yeah, how about
if they would have had Cedric Tillman, it would have been even a worse beating. But I mean, you got to think Nick Saban coming off a loss this weekend. You know, that's kind of a position you might want to think about when you're playing the Alabama. Or when you're looking at playing Alabama this weekend. But
indeed. All right, Tooch. Let's pull the plug on this one.
Right.
There will be Bar Down Hockey Talk tomorrow at 2 p.m. Central.
Can't wait to see Vinny Parisi again on the 5th.
Those guys, yes.
Yeah, my Hanover Park Little League friend.
Yeah. And Buffon 55 at 7 p.m. and I believe Science Fiction at 9 p.m. I think they've got a new, fresh episode for us. So for Johnny Santucci, Dan Aguirre, and myself, this has been Dan and Aldo Bear Their Souls. Thank you all for joining us live. And those of you watching on demand, thank you very much. Take care now.
Thank you for listening to Dan and Aldo Bare Their Souls. Make sure you subscribe to the Barroom Network and you give us a rating on iTunes. Until next week, my name is Nomfe. Bear down.